Welcome, champions. Hello, Insomnia. Hello, King of Soul. How you guys doing? I was going to switch the scene to here, and I almost just hit stop streaming instead. Oops. Oh, how is everyone? Parada, how you doing? I played D&D last night. Cheated on my diet quite heavily. So I'm feeling the effects of that. And my voice might sound a little gone because we were screaming. Hello, Kratos. How you doing? And Caius, welcome back. Oh, man. Oi, oi. Well, today we'll be going over Seat 5. Howdy, Sinister. How you doing? And as always, gotta throw something in the background for my own sanity. Just a little background music. If it's too loud, too quiet, whatever in between, let me know. I might be a little sluggish today. Forgive me, but I will make it work. Oh man, this is going to be an interesting seat, for sure. Let's do a little recap of the list from last time here. This is what the list is looking like so far. And we have Seat 5 in the bottom waiting to be ranked. We're gonna see some highs, we're gonna see some lows today, for sure. And there is one in particular I'm looking at that I know is gonna get quite a bit of a dip. I was looking at the list and I kind of forgot I even ranked them that high, but yeah, we'll get to them when we get to them. How is that? I feel like that background noise might be too loud. Let me know. Shanti, is that how you pronounce your name? Howdy. Get just a little lower on that for now. Well, we'll do it this way. Yeah, that might get a little aggressive, so we'll turn that down a bit. Okay, so as always, we'll probably start with the core champion of Seat 5 and work our way up from there, taking any recommendations for who we want to look at next. But that means today we'll be starting with Calliope. A fairly basic champion, all things considered, especially by today's standards. She is a support and healer, a bard, and she only buffs those in the column in front of her. But she does have a heal, grants temporary hit points to damaged champions within 2 slots of Calliope, with a 15-second cooldown per champion. You're late, how's it going? You're not even late, Shushankins, we just started. How you doing? I'm doing okay. I am recovering from a D&D night, so my voice might be a little gone. But yeah, her heal can only grant up to 200% of the champion's max HP. She's not going to reach that threshold with tanks, but you're not sure if you can do anything about it, but your stream volume feels a bit low compared to other streams you watch. I can definitely work with the mix a little bit. I like to be slightly on the lower end, because you can always turn up your volume. But yeah, we can take a look at that. Mostly because I haven't gotten into my, like, full autistic screaming because I'm not really playing games that bait out my rage, but if I were to scream, it would get quite loud and peak, and I just don't want to peak. So, but we can give a little boost. We can go somewhere in there. That might be a little better. Let me know. That being said, let's take a look at Calliope's specializations. Very simple. She either increases the effect of Bardic Inspiration or decreases the cooldown on her temporary hit points. most of the time, you're going to take the damage buff if you're using her. Get her leveled up. Come on. I don't know why I have to do that. I just do. So, as a core champion, she's not going to scale that crazy, but does get gear from natural gold chests. But you can see I have her item levels roughly in the 30k through E4, and we're looking at just under an E11 buff. Nothing crazy, flat on average. Is a healer, but we're getting up to decent temporary hit points, but a lot of her healing also comes from her ultimate. She points her loot at a random enemy and lets loose a hidden crossbow bolt. It tears through all enemies in a line. After attacking, she engages her damage shield on all members of the party. So you can slap a temporary shield on your entire party with her ult. That is a decent way to apply it, and you can get it on your whole party, and temp HP is generally better than flat healing in many scenarios. And as a core champion, she probably scales her healing higher than you're gonna see from other healers. Temp HP synergy with Jamla, yeah, you're not wrong, but but Calliope is actually a great way to get that temp HP if you happen to be using Jamla in the early game, or if for some reason you've held on to her. Calliope actually is good synergy with her. But that is Calliope's entire kit. She does have a glitch feat for Haringen, so she can count as another race. But she is very standard, very basic, and again, you'll use her for the temp HP every great once in a while, potentially. But her buffing is meh, nothing to write home about at all. Now, previously we had her in the C+. So you can kind of gauge, let's see, let's pull up that list. C+, right there. Kind of an average all around, not the worst. A little bit better than, you know, offering just your flat, bare bones. A little more than that, but not the greatest. Availability, fair point. Gotta go over that availability. You're gonna have to keep me on track today, apparently. Good lord. So. Looking at Calliope. She is good, so available for Mert. She naturally has 14 con, and again, that reminds us, does she have any attribute feats? No, she does not. So, that means she will not be available for Strahd with her 12 int. She definitely could use that +1 int to get in there, but does not have that. 12 strength and 19 charisma, so available for Zariel. But as a core champion, not available for Elminster. However, her overall ability scores make her available for every day 1 trials restriction. So, on the average side, only unavailable for Strahd and Elminster. My second cat is meowing at my door, begging to be let in. And now that I'm talking about my cat, of course, I have to show her. Hold on. Ugh. She's over on her throne. I don't know if you can see her. She glows in the light. Ugh. Oh. What do you want me to call you, by the way? Does pills work for that? Now here's the question, should I let in the other cat? He's what we call a booger. He's a little stinker. He's a good boy sometimes, but he can make things go a little too chaotic. Do we let him in or not? But pills is even better, okay. Wasn't sure which way you were leaning with that for a shortened name. Anyway, so pretty good availability, but unavailable for Strahd and Elminster. More kitties the merrier in your opinion? We'll see. We'll see what he does. I'll let him in real quick. He can be a stinker. We'll see. I think he just wanted to come in here and leave me a present in the litter box. There are multiple litter boxes, though. You think you've only used Calliope a handful of times? Yeah, I mean, she's useful early on in the game, but she's not one that we'll see use through and through unless you need the temporary hit points. Let's go ahead and look at the current list. Again, previously had her in this C+. Looking at the C+ now. Nahara was next to her in the previous list and got bumped down to C-. And I kind of kept them together before. So she might be seeing a dip to the C-. Potentially, in my mind. I see her being above Stokey. Potentially. Maybe. I want to show the other cat, but he is actively going to the bathroom. That would be rude. Over Mehen. Yeah, I'm thinking about at least unique mechanics between Mehen and Naeli. I was thinking maybe my brain was going to just behind Naeli. It's kind of what I was thinking. Forest Grey could really use some affiliation synergy. Yeah, I doubt they'll get it because they're core. So many of them are core. That would be useful, though. You use her in restrictive variants because she's easy to use with positional buffs. Yeah. You've never tried, but does she have the same temp HP observe interactions as Antreus with Artemis? I don't remember, actually. Bro, she's a bard. Con, her seat is so competitive. Yeah, and we'll be seeing more of her seat soon. Yep, no, let in my cat and he just shit right away. Great. Now I get to smell that. Look at the offender. We're gonna look at the offender. Look at him. This guy just took a big old duke. Where are you going? Okay, so... Or D. I see Naeli having slightly more use than her. She has 2 buffs, one of them is very minor, but she is a tank. I find tanks a lot more useful than healers. I'm thinking personally just behind Naeli. However, her buff is nothing fantastic. Truly, at the end of the day, it probably is better than... I mean, she's probably equal with Donner, honestly, as far as raw buffing goes. But, being core, she gets more gear and will likely be able to buff more. He wants out now. He literally just came in to take a crap. I'm gonna lose my mind. 1 second. Come on. Go on. Go on. Go on. Oh, man. Okay. You can smell that just like every other Japanese. I guess he should have done that while we were talking about Pwent. That would have been more fitting. You think E10-ish buff ekes her into C- just barely? I see, but E10, I am only at that with like 30k item levels. Like, honestly, her buff is probably bang on with Donner, but being core, again, you'll scale that up a bit. Temp HP is better than heal, sort of, kind of, maybe. Yeah, I mean, in a lot of scenarios, yeah. But, Oh, it is mirrored, so I'm, like, looking at stuff, Shoshenkins. It did, It did block your message because of a word, but yeah. Auto-blocked. But for the record, I am left-handed. But. Turner Cam loves on evergreens. She's like an E10 buff. But, no. My mouse is on. I guess it is mirrored, yeah. But I wanted to be looking, you know, have the camera facing what I'm looking at on the screen. But yeah. Okay, I'm green. She's like an E10 buff. Yeah, I'm thinking she's... Like, because you do still have the slight benefit from Donner of debuffing for the gold. So he will see use, whereas, this is where I'm struggling. I see her behind Naeli or behind Donner. These are the two slots I'm seeing her in. What does everyone think between those two, at least? Behind Donner or behind Naeli? What are we thinking? Naeli. Does Naeli move with her? I definitely see tanks as a lot more mechanically sound. I do think Naeli, it's annoying that her feat doesn't work with Ashara, but that would make her a lot better, especially for the early game, if anyone's focusing Ashara, to be able to get that feat and make her count as exotic, as it should. Oh well. Just to be behind Naeli. Core tanks with health share are situationally very strong. Yeah, I find the tank role much more important. Being a bard is a big deal since there's a handful of variants where it's just bards. Yeah, I guess there is a few, for sure. Yeah, we'll leave her behind Naeli for now. I mean, it makes sense for two core champions to be near each other. That have, I mean, one is kind of, like, yes, Celeste is the first healer, but Calliope's temp HP is much better than Celestial, though Celeste's ultimate is pretty good, as far as healing if you need it. Yeah, I think we'll leave her behind Naeli for now, but as always, we'll keep coming back and keep looking and keep shuffling around as we go. So the question now is who to look at next. I need to switch the scene. Haha. There we go. We've got the full... That was almost like a horse. We've got the full seat to look at. Anywhere someone wants to focus first. Qillek? Yeah. I foresee Qillek to... Xander, we'll do Xander after Qillek, because Qillek is one that's likely going to see a pretty big hit. I feel like that is one I probably overranked to begin with. So, we'll see. Start with the word Xander. Qillek, yeah, you want to know thoughts? Yeah, I think Qillek's definitely taken a hit. I like Qillek, but, yeah, we'll go in. So, to start with the, he is one of the heroes of Erebus. We went over them with, Sentry. They all contribute together. Well, we'll level him up first, but his, a healer, a buffer, and a debuffer, not in the sense that it's like click debuff, but, synergizes with debuffs that are stuns, slows, or roots, increasing gold dropped by those enemies. Being lawful, for those still using a freely lawful gold farm, Qillek still has a spot in that formation. But, we'll level him up, look at his specializations. Bless, his damage buff, will apply to champions exactly 2 slots away. Or also applies, rather. I might have said that wrong. I don't... Anyway, champions exactly 2 slots away from Qillek contribute twice as much to Bless. Slow sanctions increase to 100%. So, you either extend the reach of the buff, make more people count for the buff, which will explain why that matters, and slow sanctions increase his gold gain from that debuff synergy. We'll just take the 2 slots away, equals more to his buff, but level him up. Because autism. There we go. Bless. Increase the damage of champions adjacent to Qillek by a baseline of 100% for each champion not adjacent to Qillek, additively. So when you make those 2 slots away count as double, you know, go somewhere like here, that's going to equal 1, 2, 3, 4 slots. That will count for that, if he's in that position. And we'll just slot a bunch of people to scale up as high as it'll scale. Not making a legitimate formation here, just throwing people in. We'll put him down here. Ooh. I don't know, just get in there. There we go. So, with all of that, he's looking about at an E13. I guess I should slot him more than anything with his full affiliation, so we'll do that at least. Oh, there we go. Uh-oh. I'm slogging, in game and in real life. So, oh, hit my table. So, being Heroes of Eros, that means there is the Eros synergy. Qillek contributes to it 1 stack per second. Maximum number of stacks is 200, plus the highest area completed in the current run divided by 5. 50% of his contributed stacks are removed when changing areas. But his bless will be increased times the total number of synergy. So we're at a 588 stacks right now of his contribution. Total stacks of 1045, and that's going to boost it by an E7. So he's still looking at that E13. So he doesn't even need really the Eros synergy to really pop off by any means. That Eros synergy is really a minor boost, all things considered. But we're looking at a slightly above average buff. Remembering Calliope with 30,000 item levels, for me, is just about into E11. So he's getting to E13, and I have him at roughly 300. Close enough. To 300 item levels full epic. His slow sanctions, you don't know that E13 is better than average? I mean, when we're considering like the low, yeah, he's on the lower end of being just barely above average. Now, by today's standards, that average might be going up, I guess, when you know, do a full net average of everybody, maybe. But when we're talking like Donner, Celeste, Calliope, they're in the E8 to E10 range, depending on item levels. Slow sanctions doesn't get crazy high, so really he's just very, very niche in how he will offer a gold boost. And again, that's likely going to just be a lawful, freely Azaka farm. So, is useful for that. Does give a slightly higher than average buff, but nothing crazy. Does give a heal. One useful thing about his heal is it is all damaged champions. And so, no matter where you slot him, he's at least healing people. But the amount is increased for champions not adjacent to him, for each additional slot away from Qillek they are. So, he will heal people 4 more the further away he is, and I mean, if you're looking to boost his healing, you'd want him somewhere more like here, to be as far from the front line as possible, and as adjacent to as few people as possible. That's not going to really crazy scale his heal by any means, because it is additive, but it is a slight boost nonetheless. Even Strix's main buff is still only... Yeah, no, Strix in particular, her positional is actually, I believe, the lowest flat positional in the game. But, yeah, Strix has a lot more going for her than just her positional, but hers is very low. But we're looking at an affiliation that they do have their own core, and of course Qillek will be buffed within his own core. But the only reason you would be actively using that core is if Lucius is your DPS. And at the end of the day, we're looking at healing, which isn't that great, does heal your whole formation, so in those rare variants where people are taking damage and you do want them healed up, Qillek is a good option for that. Is a bard, we were just talking about bards being somewhat more useful as a class because there are bard restricted variants. Bless isn't crazy good, gets slightly above average. Does have gold find, but not the best gold find at all, and very niche with who he can pair with to benefit from that. So, just point out, isn't the worst buff? Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. For sure, for sure. But we'll go ahead and look at his availability. So, we are farmers, come on. Man, my voice, I woke up and I was like, uh-oh, because my voice was just like not coming out when I first woke up. Alright, so, Qillek is good, available for Mert. Con of 12 with Any attributes? No. So, not available for Vajra. Does have 13 int, so qualifies for Strahd, and 12 strength, which I always found kind of strange that Qillek looks like a frail burb. But 12 strength and 14 charisma, so available for Zariel. Is not available for Elminster because he came out 1,828 days ago. A reminder that 1,095 is the cutoff for Elminster. But because of his attributes, he is available for every day 1 trials restriction. So, not too bad, only knocked out of Vajra and Elminster. Qillek suffers on Bard variants for being in Seat 5 because the most difficult Bard variant is in Witchlight. I think it is, but... yeah. Evandra, it is hard to not just use Evandra for Witchlight, absolutely. Should be 1,096 and... yeah. What are you gonna do? But previously, I had him ranked pretty high. Where exactly did I have him? A-, I believe... yeah. I had him in the A-. I do not believe he belongs there. I feel like I even overranked him when I first ranked him, looking at it in retrospect. But let's take a look at the current list. That's not the current list. This is the current list. Problem with Evandra is that she isn't really buffing most DPS champions, but that's something to talk about later. Yeah, and we'll talk about her today, being Seat 5, but that is something I always go into with the awful ones in general, is who they buff altogether, let alone just Evandra, isn't a big pool of DPS to choose from. But as far as Qillek goes, average healer, but can heal everyone, which is nice for a healer when you need it. Slightly above average buff, but just that buff. A little bit of gold, but probably only going to be used with a lawful freely farm as far as the gold goes. It's mostly to have a tank in the Bard-only variant, yeah. B+ needs E20-ish. I mean, or some other... yeah, we got the speedsters in there too. But as far as raw buffing goes, yeah, roughly. And if he even makes it into the B-, I see him at the very end of B-. Does he fall even further than the end of B- is the question. B- would be super generous, yeah. That's when it starts getting a little harder to delineate the differences, but yeah, because even when we tumble down to the C-, as far as raw buffing, he's probably... C+ would be kind of generous. Yeah, I even see him going lower than B-, honestly. Using Jarlaxle way more than Qillek, even if it's just for gold. Yeah, if you use Qillek in your gold farm, they're going to be used, you know, equally. But Jarlaxle does see more universal gold use than Qillek. How much does he help his affiliation? I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, yes, you would use him if you're using the Erebus core with Lucius as your DPS. That's probably the only time. And even then, you might even be able to slot someone who offers a bit more. But that core specifically scales with them, so. Minus has Nerd, super useful for some formations. Nixie, 2 sources of Bud. Nahara, early game speed. Deacon, early game speed. Yeah, that's kind of where I was thinking. Oh, does he fall that far, though? Man. Because if we're talking about raw mechanics, I mean, he does offer the lawful gold freely farm, which, in my opinion, isn't seeing as much staying power as it used to. Between Jar and Solak, Solak is such a unique one, because he can be so good, but he's so restrictive. It's so hard to rank someone like him. where you overranked him before is meaningless. I mean, I'm not really taking into consideration right now where I ranked him. More about what he's competing against right now. And, yeah. If we're talking about raw mechanics... That's a rough tumble, man. You use Solok more than him. Definitely above D. I think he's above D, for sure. He doesn't dip into D territory. Because his buffing is enough that if that's all he had, maybe he'd be in the higher D. But he does still offer some other stuff. But yeah, just mechanically speaking, man, maybe just behind Mehen, which kills me a little bit inside, but... Being in Seed 5, yeah. I try hard not to just rank them based on who they compete against, but sometimes, if you really can't even come close to some of the hitters in Seed 5, or in your seat, yeah, it's rough. Do you remember what you liked before? I mean, he was... Again, a lot of these tier lists were done before we were getting some of these huge numbers. And him... I valued more roles a little higher than I do now. Just being able to be a role, I valued a bit higher. So being a healer, even though healing is meh. And they had just reworked him to give him that debuff. And Lawful Freely was definitely more popular back then. And so that was a lot more valuable at the time. But, yeah. I mean, I think Lawful Freely is pretty much putting up the best gold numbers until we got, like, what, Valentine and Egbert and a few other just random gold finders. Just a symptom of the different time of the game, really. And even then, I think I slightly... he probably belonged in a higher B, not a low A. At the time. But, yeah, he might fall that far, which, oh, that kills me a little bit. But, whatever. That's how it doing be sometime, you know. So I think that's where we gotta put it. Oof. That one hurts me a little bit. Oops, I keep doing that. Let's get the old list out of the way. Oof, alright, well, I did say we were doing Xander next. Xander's kind of memed on. And there's some shaky history with the character as well. Wasn't Binwin supposed to be F, but was an honorary E because you were using F for the placeholders? He was, I was still considering E or F. So I'm still kind of contemplating that as well. I wanna populate the list a bit to see what else makes it to E, and then see if he's worth dipping into F. He might though, still. Oh, Xander. Xander. I don't even have him. You can see how much I use Xander by the fact he still only has 3 out of 4 feats. So Xander increases the damage of all champions in the column behind him by E8 standard. But he does increase the effect of Streetwise for each sorcerer, warlock, or wizard champion adjacent to him. Excuse me. So let's go ahead and do that just to see what his absolute peak can be. Xander creates a G tier. I mean, it would have to be an X tier at that point, right? Just all the way, no. Again, he's not like the worst thing ever. Like, he's just not good. I think before we rank him, we have to see how good he is with enough item levels. You want me to put item levels into Xander? Is that what you're trying to bait me into doing? Oh, man. What was it? I even forget. Wizards, Warlocks, what? Sorcerer, Warlock, Wizard. So all the casters. It's only fair for science. How about you do it? Thank you for the follow. Loopy? How you doing? I'm assuming Loopy. How about you invest in Xander, you take a screenshot and then get back to me? I think that's how we're going to have to handle this. Gale, we'll get him out. Oh, let's get out Makos. For a joke and a speed ability, that's enough. You used a potion of polish on Xander? That takes some balls, man. Respect. Well, I guess Fen is a lock. So, oh, I didn't level her all the way up. I have to level her all the way. There we go. So, I mean, at the end of the day, fully surrounded. He gets to E11, up from E8. And granted, I do only have him at roughly 200-ish, 150 to 200 item levels. So not a big investment by any means. That being said, his ultimate peak at that point, full epic, is E11 for me. And that's in the very rare scenario of being in a position of being adjacent to 6, which isn't going to happen very often in formations. A whole E11, that's enough for D. That, again though, that's only once adjacent to that many of a specific class where normally he's not going to be adjacent to that many, and are you even using those classes? So it's a bit restrictive. And when you're restrictive, to bump from E8 to E11, that's a problem. I guess we should cover his other mechanics that aren't listed in his outgoing effects. Whenever Xander lands a killing blow, or anyone kills an enemy affected by distraction, there is a chance that enemies award double quest progress. And distraction is when Xander attacks and misses an enemy, the enemy is marked and will trigger Lucky Shot, no matter who lands the killing blow. So, that means he has a chance to miss his attacks. 33% chance naturally, and I believe... I don't even want to use a respecialization potion. Why can't I find him? Where is Titan? Where is... What? Bro, I'm blind. Top mid. There he is, thank you. Frickin' Syndrome hiding from me over there. Let's see now. So, he can increase his chance to miss if you're going to use him for speed. The speed anti-synergy, you're only as fast as your wall. Yeah. So yeah, you can increase his chance to miss. And then it becomes a 66% chance. But again, at the end of the day, are you going to invest item levels into that speed when not only is that not the greatest speed mechanic, he also is sharing a seat with the most important speed champion in the entire game, in my opinion, which we'll get to at the end. Yeah, Briv, am I joke to you? Exactly. Oh, man. He do be looking like Clint Stevens, though. Yeah. Xander's memed on, and it's not without reason. He's not good. But Briv doesn't qualify for Elminster. I know neither does Xander. Yeah, I was gonna say, well, it doesn't really matter. But just imagine if they rework him and he's suddenly better than Briv. That would be crazy. I don't foresee it happening. The history behind that character, I think, prevents them from ever even caring about him. But who knows? You never know. Especially being an event champion. Oh, I could never, in good conscience, recommend your time gate or time gate pieces on Xander. He should be basically left when you just need to fill the roster, and he just happens to be the one to fill your roster. Your Briv is paid for himself, you'll be okay with it. Well, previously, I believe he was all the way down in the D tier in the old list. Let's look at that. Boop. Down there in D. I didn't fully give him the garbage treatment, but I was being generous. And I think, in light of this list, we have to not be generous. We will look at his availability, though, just, you know, In all fairness. Pulling up so I don't miss anything. Come on, come on. Being a little sluggy today. Good, so available for Mert. You can see by his feats, he does have a charisma feat, which that will make him available. Will not, actually. Wait. Now I'm confused. Am I tripping? Well, we'll go down the list, but not available for Vajra because of his con. Available for Strahd because of his int. But Bite Glow is saying actor makes him qualify for Zariel, but Zariel requires 10 strength. I don't know why it says that. Am I tripping? Why are they saying he's available for Zariel? Huh? Yeah, I don't know why it says I don't know why it says he's available for Zariel, because 8 strength. So, yeah, I don't know. That's weird. Probably a bug. And nobody ever noticed. Well, I mean, it is Xander. That is actually so funny to me because, yeah, that is the champion that would have a missed bug because no one ever looks at Xander. That's so funny, though. Anyway, yeah, not available for Zariel because he does not have the strength regardless of his charisma feat. Not available for Elminster because he came out 2,115 days ago. And because of his ability scores, he will be locked out of the Day 1 trials for Strength and Constitution. That is funny about the actor being available for Zariel. He is not. Yeah, and just nobody cares. That's so funny. Yeah, just leaving it there this whole time, waiting to see who noticed. That's funny. It caught me off guard, but that is funny. Yeah, as far as where to rank him in our current list. Oh, Xander. Do we embrace the memes and give him the full F, or do we put him at the bottom of E? I will leave that to your guys' discretion because he's a no-show. He is one of those you will use if you have literally no other option. He does buff your formation. That's it. Not even then. Not even then. You refuse to use Xander, even when you need a slot in your formation. Yeah. It doesn't take a meme to put him in F, he just is that bad. Again, at the end of the day, he does still at least buff your formation, but... yeah. You've used him when total dex was important. That's the thing. He will be used in some very rare variants that lock you out of a lot of stuff. Xander S tier support. You gonna die on that hill, Ovium? Because I don't think anyone else is joining you there. You would use him over Binwin. Well, you would use DM instead, probably. That's another story. Yeah, I mean, DM does have his very unique use. F the same for you? Yeah. I do want to wait until we have more of the just DPS on the board before we fully dip down Binwin and Ishii. But Binwin is a candidate for F, don't get me wrong. With the info about the bug, yeah. F tier exists, some champions have to qualify for it. Yeah. Xander is definitely memed on enough. Here's a compromise, merge E and F and just label it F. It is almost the same thing at the end of the day, to be perfectly honest. Yeah. Oh, Xander. Such a strange one. F just don't, E still also just don't. Pretty much. I feel like E is that it's supposed to be just that slight little bit more, you know? There's something there. There's something there. But is there something there for Binwin and Ishii? That's the question. And yeah, we'll relook at that. You think he is more useful than trash pure DPS champions? At least you can fill a slot with him. There is that, which is, to me, almost more justification for just putting everyone, making the F tier instead of an E tier. I'll look into that later, though. We won't be doing that today, live. But yeah, that is something I always say, with Xander at least, yeah. It's not a great buff, but at least he buffs if you have literally nothing else. But still, in light of what we're doing here, he's probably the worst support in the game. So, the leading champion in F tier. What a gatekeeper to be. Well, Xander out of the way. Most of us knew that was coming. Oh, we got a lot of interesting to look at here. Did we have any quarters on the table for someone else? I don't think we did yet. Anything we want to look at? Prudence? Let's piss off Emote. To be fair, I have talked to Emote a very few times, just like in Discord. And I asked what the recommendation would be as far as the list goes. And Emote even said put Farida above Prudence. Prudence sucks, so. Or we could place Briv in S tier and move on. We'll get to that. we can look at Prudence and then we might say Valentine. We'll see. Valentine is definitely one to talk a little deeper about. So, Prudence. DPS only, the dedicated DPS of the Ox Venturers Guild. She does have a few ways to scale her damage. We'll look at them one by one. Glee. Prudence gains 1 stack of Glee each time she kills an enemy. For each stack of Glee, her damage is increased, stacking additively. Glee has a chance to lose 1 stack whenever a champion other than Prudence gets a kill. Delight. Increase the damage bonus of Prudence's Glee ability for each good aligned champion in the formation, stacking additively, and then applying multiplicatively. Resolve. Increase the max stacks of Glee by 10 for each neutral or evil champion in the formation, additively. And Frustration. Every time Prudence attacks an enemy but does not kill it, she gains a stack of Frustration. Frustration stacks increase her damage, stacking multiplicatively. The maximum number of Frustration stacks is equal to the number of champions adjacent to Prudence. Frustration stacks are reduced by 1 each time she gets a kill. So she's got a lot of roller coaster going on in her kit, gaining and losing stacks all over the place, wanting both good and evil champions for different reasons in different scenarios. As far as her raw numbers, it just really doesn't stack up that good. It's even hard to showcase, honestly. But we'll look at her specializations. Should have just done that first because it had nothing to do with her formation abilities. When Prudence attacks, there is a 50% chance that her base attack cooldown will be reset immediately. Or, when she attacks, there's a 10% chance that her ultimate attack cooldown will be immediately reset. So you're choosing between resetting her base attack or her ultimate. Her ultimate damage will be increased by 200% if you take the ultimate increase. I can see an argument made for both scenarios to have a faster attacker DPS or a faster on cooldown Bud. And with her ultimate, she does open a gateway to the dark between. But it is just an AoE. Bwap. It will pull enemies together. So, it is, if you reduce its cooldown and have it more frequently, a little bit of crowd control there, but AoE Bud damage. Do we go through the rigmarole of setting up a formation for her? I have never truly used Prudence other than when she first came out and when I had to rank her. We will first go over her availability because, as with most tieflings in the game for some reason, she has pretty good ability scores. And as far as her availability goes, and availability is all the more important, in my opinion, for a DPS if you're going to focus on a DPS to invest in. That being said, Prudence herself, oh boy, my game ready driver is available for an upgrade. Update, whatever. She is evil, so she is available for Mert. She has High Con, available for Constitution for Vajra. And for the record, she has no attribute feats, but she doesn't really need them, as she also has 15 int, qualifying her for Strahd, and 14 strength, 18 charisma. She is available for Zariel, and she came out 1,002 days ago, so still available for Elminster, but she is on the cusp of being locked out of that. About so 93 days she will be unavailable for Elminster. But because of those ability scores, she is available for every day 1 trials restriction. So really, really good availability. You've actually used Prudence quite a few times more than you expected. Really? And I mean, tieflings are fun to use, but I can't think of many other than, well, I mean, the only times I really use Prudence is when I get a patron challenge for her to be the bud setting champion. That's about the only time I use Prudence, or have throughout my playtime of this game. I don't think she's like trash, but I truly believe she's not that good. She even has all champ damage, that's a plus, even if it's not huge. I mean, yeah. I mean, are you just referring to, like, upgrades? Is that what we're talking about? Pills? Is that where we're... Yep, yeah. I think literally everyone but Deacon does, so... And I think... I'd have to look, but I'm not going to look through every single champion right now, but I think Deacon is the only one who does not have all champion upgrades. But yeah, I mean, as with anyone else... They can fill an empty slot, but that doesn't make them a... In a very restrictive pure magic variant, she's better than like Delina or Nahara. Not wrong, but I would even say her tiefling friends probably out DPS her. Damning with faint praise. Yeah. But that's the thing, even if we worked on stacking up all of these, again, it's a roller coaster that goes just up and down. And the numbers, we're not talking pre-stack multipliers or anything. Good availability, cool design, interesting character. But as far as a DPS goes, There's a bunch of champs that don't have that. Ishii is also one of those. Is Ishii? Let me see here. Don't care. Okay, you're right. Is it just like a kobold thing? Yeah, it's, a lot of DPS do have them, actually most of them. I know Dirge does, Binwin, again. Oh, I'm sitting here looking at it like that. Well, now I'm just curious. I mean, Spurt does, right? Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what constitutes that choice. I don't know. Huh. Anyway, talking about Prudence. Previously, we had her in the Z+. Not the worst DPS. Really good availability, which in my opinion is a huge boon to a DPS. Because again, availability is huge if you're going to invest in someone who's going to be setting your damage. So her availability is a plus, in my opinion. But, let's take a look at the current list. Dahani also doesn't? Well, now I gotta look. Now I gotta look. Oops. Hello? There we go. No, Dhani has them. I'll champ damage. Which is probably another reason Kent outperforms her more often than not in their own. Yeah, there's a couple all damage upgrades for Dhani. Didn't used to before the rework? Ooh, that I don't know. I'd have to go back and literally watch my Seat 1 video, and I don't even know if I showcase it. I can't go back and watch my content, though. Oh, God. I can't. Checking every single DPS champion, Deacon... Well, that actually might be the thing, is maybe Deacon is the only support that doesn't. Maybe that's what it is. Could be wrong, though. But I know more often than not. But let's go ahead and look at the current tier list. And Prudence. Previously in that C+. Where do we put her now? Good availability. I think that's important for a DPS. Does have some mechanics, but not the best scaling at all. Kind of iffy to work with too, with all the alignment restrictions. C-, potentially, yeah. The big old truck. C- also. Is Nixie better than her? That's the thing. Nixie serves the formation better as a support if possible. Most of the time, she does have a slight buff to herself. That being said, her buff in and of itself is better than anything Prudence will give to herself. And Nixie, while not... her availability isn't the greatest, she will always be available for Witchlight because of Evandra. That does give her some competitive availability to a degree. Behind Naeli, a health share tank with item levels is more useful than a bad DPS. Yeah, as far as like, am I going to recommend Prudence to someone to focus on? Probably not. But if you like like Emote, I can't speak to why Emote uses Prudence, other than probably just likes the character. And in that scenario, you know, at least she has good availability. But we're doing the thing again. Chibi, welcome. Yeah, I do think Naeli, even Calliope. So maybe she'll be le bottom of C-. Does Naeli have health share? It's either yes or she did when you unlock her health specialization. I forget which it is. Nixie DPS for a while. Red Tatiana DPS. If specs, yeah, so it is. If you take her health specialization, she shares. Yeah. So yeah, that's where I'm thinking. A little C-, a little bit of C-. Yeah. Not a big drop, a little bit of a drop. I think it's fair for Prudence. C5 not showed up. So, oh yeah, this seat sucks. We often go through the iffy ones first. And if that's the scenario, we should probably move on to Viconia. Because then we got some interesting ones to talk about. And Viconia definitely has some unique mechanics behind her. But at the end of the day, her buffing isn't that great. And she's restrictive. It's a double knock against being a support. So, based on her specializations, we'll just look at those while we have them up. The effect of Cleric of Shar, her buff, is increased for each column away from the backmost column she is. This will be the only way you boost her buffing with her specializations. Cleric of Shar now affects neutral champions on the good/evil axis, whereas before she's only evil or her affiliation. So you can make her buff neutral champions or evil champions, but never good champions, unless you're using Corazon to make them count as neutral, but that means you're using Viconia and Corazon, and that's kind of rough. Or you increase the chance for Animate the Dead to trigger, which is her unique mechanic, which is probably why you're using her if you're using her, unless you're using her to pair with a absolute adversaries, as she does have a Ceramorphosis feat. That being said, she's not the greatest for them. Viconia and Corazon just for the buff? Exactly. it's not an ideal scenario. But we'll take just Animate Dead for now, and we'll go over her whole kit. But first, we overlevel her all the way to make all of the bars green, because OCD. Autism. Cleric of Shar. Increase the damage of evil champions and heroes of Baldur's Gate champions by E11. Ooh, you know, we're talking again that flat average buffing number. And since it's a flat buffing number, dead on average, while being restrictive to evil or neutral, a restrictive, rough buff. I don't know. She is a healer and will heal allies that are under 50% health. So she does heal everyone in your formation if they're under 50% health, which is useful in those rare scenarios where you just need a little bit of healing going on. But a lot of the reason people will use her is for Animate Dead. When a non-boss enemy is killed, there is a chance Viconia will seize control of its lifeless body and turn it against its former allies, stopping their movement. Wow, my brain just hard farted. While it is reanimated, it deals Bud to nearby enemies each second. There can be up to 25 reanimated enemies at a time. So you can see, as these bears are dying, there's a lingering undead creature, and if they reach that circular radius, they will be dealt Bud damage. She also has, however, Yesterday's Undead, which is another huge reason you might use her. Whenever a non-boss, non-static, non-undead enemy spawns, there is a chance, and you can increase this with feats. As you'll see, I have 2 Yesterday's Undead on right now. There is a chance that it will spawn an undead version of itself, while also retaining its original tags. You love Turn Undead, great point to join the stream. Welcome. How you doing, Dark Warrior? So, this definitely this has its uses. It's a way to force spawn potentially a favored foe for other mechanics, and she shares an affiliation with Minsk, who can scale with Undead based on specialization choices. Tired, how are you? Also tired. I had a long day of D&D and breaking my diet, and now I'm sluggish. We muscle through. But yeah, it's you can also use it in a scenario of, does your patron challenge need you to kill, wow, brain farting. Does your patron challenge need you to kill undead? You can force spawn undead if you're too lazy to go somewhere that naturally spawns undead. But yeah, I mean, it has its uses. And she has a lot of overall mechanics. We've got forced undead spawning, we've got bud damage, but we've got healing, but her buffing doesn't keep up. But she still has vague uses, and she does have Ceramorphosis for the current popular absolute adversaries. Does she have a permanent slot in their best formation? Probably not. Undead for Vin is a big plus. Yeah. If you need favored foe mechanics, she can be useful. She says Viconia because you think that's currently the only way you can get 10 Ceramorphosis. You don't have Narak's feat yet, unless of course Narak without a tadpole is better than Viconia. You've never checked that. At the end of the day, a fully buffing Narak would likely outperform Viconia with a Ceramorphosis. Does your season milestone need undead? And you didn't exit bearing around. Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, Narak is a very good buffer. Very good. You like necromancers, but the build just doesn't quite come together. Yeah. Question, does she make undead favored foe for Venersa? Yeah, that is one of her main use. T5, how you doing? Is for spawning potentially favored foes, yeah. And Vin in particular as, who did say that? That was Synox, right? Yeah. For spawning undead for Vin to count another favored foe can be very useful, absolutely. Does being basically a required champ for the current hardest variant count for anything in this list? Are you talking about, which one are you talking about? Are you talking about the evil, Light of Xerxes one? Is that what we're talking about? Welcome, T5 Cats. How you doing? I know you've been around for a while. How you doing? Elminster Xerxes Evil one, yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's always a useful thing, right? Was there... Yeah, I'm kind of curious. I'm curious now. I'm going to look at who all qualifies for that, because I am a little curious. So, we're looking at alignment, evil, available for Elminster. Yeah, I mean, yeah, she would be best in slot in that scenario, for sure. Because you can make the full team of 10, but that would require Viconia. Unless you're using Prudence as your DPS, but considering Dirge is in seat 11, you're likely using Dirge as he's the only evil in that seat. So, I mean, yeah, that is a very niche use. Oh, Pills, I see what you're saying. That's all DPS champs without all champ damage upgrades. My cat is hollering at me. What? What do you want? Do you hate that I'm talking to no one? Huh? Where are you gonna go? Where are you going? Huh? We have to watch the kitty. She's checking if she has any food. Spoilers, she ate it all. So it's not only Deacon as a support, but also Ashara. Yeah, Ashara, that one is a bit interesting, actually, for sure. Use it as speed of bronze that aren't important enough for familiars, just Bud Wall of Death. Finish Birdsong with DMs. It's only C9 has no chance. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true too, Caius. If we're talking about the evil variant, DM will probably pull in someone better than Viconia anyway, I guess. Sweet baby Chonka girl. Yeah, she used to be so thin, and then all of a sudden, boom. She is a bit older, though. There's a ghost in the chair. Spooky. You think that should definitely affect Ashara's rating as a DPS, as her buff is really bad, and she is missing out on all champ damage? What do you mean her buff is really bad? I don't know if I agree with that on Ashara, if you set it up right on herself. Oh, as a support? I see. Yeah. Ugh. But Viconia, bruh. Sorry. She's just hollering at me. I don't know if you guys can even hear her, but it's just funny. She's just laying there, hollering at me. Yeah. Anyway. So, Viconia. Previously, we had Viconia in a C+. Let's take a look. There she is at the end of C, more in like a flat C. Is Viconia with a tadpole a worse support for dirge than BBEG? Never been fed. How you doing, garbled for life? If you're gonna tell me this big old girl has never been fed, you crazy. Oh, right. Is Viconia with a tadpole a worse support for dirge than BBEG? That really depends on the scenario, probably. In that, is slotting BBEG making him count for full folk hero with will? Because that is often a scenario, and in that case, absolutely. As far as just raw her Ceramorphosis and her buff for dirge versus just BBEG, it would probably be Viconia as long as you've made him evil. If you make him good, then absolutely BBEG is better because he can't qualify with good. So yeah, evil dirge with Ceramorphosis Viconia baseline is probably a little better than baseline BBEG. But is BBEG making you count for folk hero? Because then BBEG. Anyway, if that makes sense. Did we do availability? No, I believe I got stuck thinking about my cat. So, we will do availability. So, she is evil. Let me know if you guys can hear her. She keeps meowing in between almost every word. It's it's hard to focus. Anyway, evil, available for Mert. Very low constitution, not available for Vajra. She does have a high int, so available for Strahd, and is available for Zariel with the strength and charisma. And she came out 869 days ago, so currently available for Elminster, will be phased out eventually, but still has a good chunk of time. And because of that constitution, will be locked out of the Day 1's Constitution trial restriction, but will be available for everything else. So, the Day 1 trial Constitution and Vajra. Everything else she is available for, so decent availability. Is the cat available for all Day 1 trials? The cat? Probably not dexterity. You only... When you saw her on screen, it was very quiet. Okay. The cat has great availability. Available for all streams, unless she's hiding under the bed. Someone wanted to see her on Tuesday, but she was hiding the whole time. She's S tier. I will come hunt you, Dark Warrior. Anyway, let's look at the current tier list. Generally, BBEG is a negative for folk hero stacks, in your opinion, because he's an elf wizard, and those are already taken by Gale and Shart. While that is true, in a Elminster run specifically, you're going to lose Narak. And so you're going to need to slot someone for Narak. And as long as you're not using Dynahair, if it's just Gale and BBEG, you can counter the two wizards with Valentine and Dirge, and you can counter the race with Mehen or Dragon, or Egbert. So he still can have a slot as long as you're using only two wizards and using Mehen or Egbert. So he can fit in with a 3 out of 4 folk hero for Dirge in Elminster. Isn't Dynahair just better than BBEG in that case then? Not necessarily, because you're usually gonna have to drop a wizard. Or, mostly he just takes her slot in there, because the problem with Dynahair is she's a human, and that will often bump you to too many humans for folk hero. But, it all depends on what you're running. I'm just saying he's an option, whereas Viconia... I think Viconia has her use within an Absolute Adversaries to a degree, but her buffing really does hamstring her. But she does have other mechanics that are useful. The Egbert. So again, we previously had her in the C+, more in the flat C range. You're a big egg believer. I like the Egbert. Egg is life, S tier. I don't know if egg will make it to S tier, but... Viconia definitely has become slightly better than she was with her season, but even then, her buffing isn't good. But she does have unique mechanics where she does make... She does have mechanics you will use every now and then. So what does that mean for her placement? Does that change? You think Tadpole puts her at the top of C- for you behind Kent? Definitely. I don't see her reaching even the B-. She's situationally useful for a strong affiliation in the hard patron, right beside Nerds, who's always useful for the best DPS. Yeah, I was thinking she kind of remains in that flat C section somewhere. It's kind of... That place is such a unique spot, though. You think Jarlaxle is better? I think Jarlaxle will have a permanent use throughout your playtime in the game, whereas Viconia is a lot more situational than that. C+ for the undead. Yeah, undead plus Bud. I can see her reaching to the very end of C+, kind of maintaining that flat C identity. Or in the higher bracket of C-, potentially. Suffers from her seat, as she can buff evil and neutral, and Evandra exists in her seat, who can also buff neutral, but better. Yeah. Absolute Adversary's evil or her affiliation, the Baldur's Gate, but how often are you going to be using Baldur's Gate as your DPS? Not often. Yeah, I'm thinking... Man, she's a weird one. I want to say she goes lower, but I do think she has her uses. Maybe more often with Jaheira Tadpole. I mean, that's fair, too. Jaheira is technically not the worst DPS out there at all, but not the greatest by any stretch either. That affiliation is wild with a bunch of just random DPS. I don't know why I blocked that. I'm allowing that. There ain't no reason that should be blocked. Yeah, I think maybe dipping a little into the C-. I don't like putting her behind Nerds, but ooh. Somewhere in this bracket. At the end of C+ or like in one of these slots is what I'm seeing. Oh, man. I don't believe I'm underrating the Nerds. I believe you're just focusing exclusively on an Artemis formation and ranking them there. Front of Deacon, you think? Nerds is good with Will too. They can be a hidden DPS to synergize with Will. They can. But their availability is hard garbage for patrons. And they buff just about no one else in an ideal formation. Buff better than her. Yeah, Solok is such a weird one to rank, because his whole kit is really good. He's just so restrictive in who he buffs. But as far as, like, hard buffing, honestly, Nerds and Viconia are really close. Even with red, green, orange, with everything up, if we're not talking about an Artemis formation, just a normal formation, their buffing all together is really low. And with all three up, they probably just barely outbuff Viconia. And that's with heavy item level investment. But they're evergreen, so, you know. If we're talking just raw buffing numbers. Yeah, I agree, Pills. That would have been so much better for Solak, just scaling with ranged and offering his buff to all. I don't know why they didn't do that, man. It is so, like, if there were a ton of ranged DPS options, that would make more sense, but there's really just not. Just a thought, make Nixie the standard barrier for C- and move those three up. I don't know about that. We'll think about it, though. Making it a dexterity restriction? I mean, yeah, there are a lot of people with dexterity, higher dexterity, so that would make even more sense. The hard ranged was crazy, I thought, because at the time it was only Zorbu and Caddy, right? Because we didn't have Crux yet. And yeah, we did get a lot more ranged after he came out, though, just to add to the buff synergy. But yeah, we need a good ranged DPS to come out. That's better than, I mean, Zorbu, he's kind of, he is the peak of what the old designs were. So he's been kind of outphased, but, I mean, that's true too. Nerds can technically be ranged. You're not wrong. Do they? Actually, don't know. Does it ever actually count their attack as ranged, though? I don't think it does. Okay, does it? Yeah, if ranged is in the front. So yeah, you can make them ranged. Actually don't know if I've ever counted that in a consideration. And give us Goku. Egbert is best range DPS. I think that is where we're going to leave Viconia for now, but again, we always reshuffle around as we go. But that's where we'll put her for now. Goku. Oh, Goku. Alright, so we have slapped out Qillek, Calliope, Prudence, Xander, and now Viconia, leaving us with Pwent, Dhadius, Evandra, Valentine, Certainty, and Briv. Where are we going from here? Maybe we could just go up. Pwent, that's kind of what I was thinking. Pwent's a good one to look at next. He got a rework somewhat recently, through seasons. Became better than he was. I always thought he was slightly overlooked as a champion. Most people just said he was dead on arrival. I disagreed, but irrelevant, as he is now different. We'll look at his specializations after we go over his kit. So, bleed. When Pwent attacks, he causes all enemies he damages to bleed, taking bud damage every second for the next 20 seconds. While an enemy is bleeding, attacks that target them have a higher chance to be crit. I took his specialization. I believe it is natively 20. It is up to 40 because of a specialization pick. If Pwent attacks an enemy that is already bleeding, the duration is reset. So, Pwent's ult is very useful indeed. He also flat increases damage of champions not adjacent to him, but he has ways to scale that. Battle Rager, when Pwent attacks, if he attacks an enemy that has already been affected by his bleed, there's an 80% chance that his attack cooldown will be instantly reset. So he can attack quick, and his base attack will hit a random enemy. I'm a little surprised they didn't just make him attack someone that wasn't already bleeding, but whatever. When a champion adjacent to Pwent scores a critical hit, Pwent increases the effect of Can You Smell That? So that is one way he scales that up. Pwent increases this, so it is a multiplicative stack up to 50 times, with these stacks being completely reset on an area change. So clearly this is designed to go with not his affiliation, as he is unaffiliated, but through Brunner King. While not a member of the Companions of the Hall, Pwent fully supports them in their quests. Your formation gains 1 Mithril Hall stack, and if you remember when we went over Brunner and Regis, the members of the Companions of the Hall add Mithril stacks, and they often have feats that do so as well, and they all scale in different ways with those stacks. Pwent increases his own bonus of Can You Smell That for each Mithril Hall stack, stacking multiplicatively. He's probably not smart enough to just attack non-bleeding champions. You're not wrong, and Pwent's, canonically speaking, as far as the lore, his whole fighting style is to just be a stinky boy, wear spiked armor, and spurg out in combat, slashing anyone in his path, which I've always loved. Anyway, he scales with Mithril Hall stacks. We'll get out a full Mithril Hall team. They often all synergize very well together, offering Mithril Hall stacks and more ways to critically hit, and many of them scaling with critting. So, I guess we'll be getting out Drizzt, so... Get them all, get them all, get them all. Yes. I don't know what party he's attached to right now. He's not attached to any party, what? Calliope increases the crit chance of Companions of the Hall. That actually won't help Pwent, now that I think about it, as he is not a Companion of the Hall. So that actually doesn't help him at all. That's unfortunate. However, Wolfgar does have a specialization pick that additively increases all champions' chance to critically hit, so he will help with that. Or yeah, I knew what you meant, Pills. I don't know if I read it that way or recorrected. Hitting bleeding enemies resets timers, unlike say Dhani. Yeah, Dhani does stack though, and I think that's a little different. He has big bloody. He has a big bloody butthole. What a sentence. Anyway. That's everyone, right? I always feel like I'm missing someone. I mean, again, you technically can make Strongheart. That's always the one. That being said, Strongheart doesn't add Mithril Hall stacks, so... Caddy increases crit chance with ult, you think? Well, with Caddy's ult, take more crit, yeah, based on her crit chance. So if her crit chance is higher, and with her ult, she is a companion, she will buff her own crit. So that is true. And I guess technically, Strongheart does scale with crits, right? Yeah, so in a way, Strongheart does synergize with them because they're a crit-based team, and Strongheart himself does scale with crits. And I've actually never tested this, now that I think about it. Does he get Calliope's buff while being a pseudo part of them? I didn't look at his base crit. What's his crit right now? 30%. Cattle. Yeah, he does. Okay. So, he does scale in that way, in his own weird way. He will get Calliope's crit buff. Getting your screen. So, I mean, yeah, we could call him the pseudo member of their team. Try moving him into slots other than companions now. The slot won't matter. Or are you saying move everyone now? And does he still maintain the crit? Is that what you're saying? Or what are you saying? Anyway, Pwent is who we're talking about. So you can see he's getting a little bit of scaling off of those Mithril Hall stacks. No one is even, oh, right, we need to, he's not adjacent to anyone, that's a problem. Not a big fan of Pwent either. Laid out there, streams a lot. Gearless, I see, quite likes Pwent because his baseline buff is pretty big if you're patient enough. And just like other companions are in, his crit chance will, so you can reach 100%. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I don't like relying on clear, wow, I can't think of the term, exploits like that, because that's clearly unintentional. But yeah, no, I actually agree. I think Pwent is quite good. We'll scale up his bleeds, his crits rather, but normally he needs to be adjacent to champions to scale that up. But he does have a specialization pick, which we'll go over now. Where Gutbuster Recruits now triggers when non-adjacent champions score critical hits. So that makes his positioning easier. You can just throw him as far away as possible from the people who you want to be critting. Or you can increase the effect of Can You Smell That for each dwarf in the formation, which if he's with the companions, he will have Bruner naturally, and a lot of them now have dwarf glitch feats to count as dwarves. So this is a way to just scale the damage if you do keep them adjacent to those who are critting. For this, we're going to take the non-adjacent crit. And I'll need to remove familiars so they're not ganking enemies. And we'll let some crits stack up. So you'll see at 12 crits, which that's not crazy, we're already at an E19. So with Mithril Hall stacks and with things critting, he actually gets some pretty good numbers. You don't want to smell that? I think you do want... Aren't you at least a little curious? Because isn't the whole thing with Pwent is he just like doesn't bathe and he's always gross and nasty? Aren't you at least a little curious just to take one waft that one time just to know? Coffee one gone. No, a constant battle-hardened dwarf who never bathes and is just a stinky boy. Doesn't pique your curiosity, just the smallest of them. Anyway, what are we at? So he's up to his 50 of 50 Gutbuster Recruits, and that's going to stack him up to an E26. Are you always going to get 50 of 50? No. But he does have a way to increase the crit of other champions, so he doesn't rely exclusively on the Companions of the Hall to be getting crits. However, they do help scale him up as the Mithril Hall stacks scale him as well. We will remove them now that he's stacked 50-50 and see. That does bump him down to an E20 without those Mithril Hall stacks. Still a good buff. Again, are you going to get 50-50 every time? Probably not, but you're going to scale it up enough that it's going to be worthwhile. A decent buff that can become a good buff. You could go to a concert in Texas if you wanted to know. I mean, you could just go to a Smash tournament. I'm sure that's pretty much the exact same smell. So we'll look at his availability, but his buffing is good, and beyond his buffing, he makes people crit. Pretty good. Availability. Let's look at his availability. So, not the greatest, as he is good, so available for Mert. He does have 17 con, so available for Vajra. He does not have any attribute feats, so we're just dealing with what he's got, meaning that 9 intelligence will keep him out of Strahd, and his 8 charisma will keep him out of Zariel. And he did come out 1,688 days ago, so he will not be available for Elminster. And because of that low int and low charisma, he will be kept out of those day 1 trials, but is available for all the rest. So, we're teetering on the lower end of availability, being locked out of Strahd, Zariel, Elminster, and 2 day 1 trials. Slightly under what you maybe could consider average. Not the worst, we're not talking spurt levels, but not the best. Beef with Hungry Box confirmed. I actually don't even know what that is. Who am I beefing with? I literally just cleared a variant that pseudo forced you to slot Pwent in your formation, so you're totally open to ranking him into D. Joking. Wait, I do know that name. Why do I know that? What is that from? Man, side tangent time. I gotta know. I gotta know. Oh, okay. No, I do know who that is. That's right. Okay. He plays Jigglypuff? Yeah. I do know who that is. I mean, have you ever been to any convention or gathering of the likes who gather for Smash? If you have, you know the smell I'm talking about. Just like a sickly, sweet, something that has gone horribly wrong. It's a visceral reaction. Anyway, Pwent. Yeah, so previously we had him, I believe after his seasonal rework, he made it to the B+. Yeah, he's near the top of B+. The smell, TM. So, yeah, he made it to the higher B+. I think he's a pretty good champion. He's a bit, not restrictive, but he does require some ramping. He is definitely better with the Companions of the Hall than not, but doesn't require them to pop off. His availability is not the greatest, though. Comic-Con and some... Oh, I've never been to a Yu-Gi-Oh! Tournament, but I can only imagine. So, as far as where we're gonna put him now... The Pwentitha. Local, not that bad. Oof. I don't know. I would still find that risky. I still think he's pretty good. He can potentially bump some great numbers. Is restrictive in how you get those great numbers. B- or C+, you say? I think he's better than C+, absolutely. And I guess I didn't showcase his ult. I'll do that real quick. But, oh, that's not the right scene. Hi, Virgil. Everyone say hi, Virgil. He's offering you a monster. He's being a good boy. But his ultimate will swing, gather everything up, group them up, and apply his bleed. So you have a way to stun and apply his bleed in an AoE with some crowd control. Pretty good ult. Near E30 buff puts him B+. The E30 buff is a bit restrictive to get quite that high, is the downside to that, but... Oops, there we go. But he's still good. I foresee him being really close to Regis, personally, and that is near the Kent range. His availability is a pretty big knock. Not the worst, but not great. Also was busy winning. Who do you play? I haven't played a Smash in ages, but I follow some tourneys every now and then. I think he's still to be considered. He's restrictive as availability B-. I'm thinking B-, but closer to what would be considered like a B. Maybe right behind Kent. I think. Who recommended that? I think I might actually, yeah, compare with Kent Lazy. Think he has to be above Regis. Regis does have Gold Find and healing and better availability. His buffing doesn't quite get to the potential of Pwent's, but it's comparable to a degree. They're all very close in that that tight, flat B range as far as the buffers. I do think Pwent has an easier place. His bud damage is also better than Kent. Kent has very comparable bud, I think. They kind of do the same thing, almost. I mean, with a specialization pick. Counterpoint, Regis isn't in Seed 5. Feel like bringing up healing is an upside, meaningless. Talk about Briv, like, yeah, very rare variants will matter for healing, but... And there are some restrictions that say, only healers, blah, blah, blah. It's not as important, though, for sure. I can foresee them being very close together. And with moving speed up and above... I do see them being kind of close. Oops. Luigi. What do we think about that? Maybe Regis a... With availability and seat, you're using Pwent win. I mean, the availability, yeah. I try not to just compare what's in their seat. I think that's... We're trying to rank them just based on what they do to the game. But it is a fair point that, you know, we're about to talk about some of very, very globally useful champions. I do like Pwent, though. I think he's good. Icewind Dale... yeah, as far as if we're just talking about when he would see use, restrictive Icewind Dale with Wolfgar bringing... Well, no, No, he doesn't get pulled in with... Wolfgar, does he? I don't think he does. Right? It's only the companions. And he's not technically a companion. Am I wrong on that? He doesn't get pulled in? Yeah. Oh, so you were just saying when he's usable. Yeah, okay. I was gonna say, I don't think Wolfgar brings him in. I just misread what you said. This is what I'm thinking for now. I don't know for sure though. I'm not completely solidified on this. But this is what I'm thinking for now. And Regis got bumped down a little bit for that. But, yeah. Let's go ahead and move on for now. As long as he's behind Kent. Certainty next. We can take a look at Certainty. Certainly Certainty. So, I guess we could just go for her specialization first. She has a preferred ability via intelligence or charisma, and will grant a +1 bonus to champions in front of her column based on what she picks, so a +1 of int or a +1 of charisma. And that can matter in that, we'll look at her kit in a second, I have to be autistic first. So, increases the damage of champions in the column in front of her. Certainty increases the effect of Secretarian's advice, and your gold find by 1% for each level on Acquisitions Incorporated or C-Team champions in the formation, stacking additively. Each champion's contribution caps at 1,000 levels after their last available upgrade. So, ideally you want others slotted from those affiliations. Not required for her kit, but we'll put some out there. Certainty's +1 intelligence gives Dirge like an E5 from Magic Core. Yeah, that it is an interesting point as soon as we bring up things that affect ability scores. you start being able to do some unique things like that. You won't make them qualify for something they wouldn't otherwise qualify for because they have to be able to be slotted, except things like Modron cores, where it will just detect what they currently are at. But as far as like pulling someone in a variant that requires that ability score threshold, you're not going to be able to do. But yeah. Should be B- anyway. Certainty +1, yeah. So, this has gone up a little bit now that we've slotted Jim. But you can see before we slotted Jim, we were at 2E5. And she was at 1E5 before. So you're not going to see huge upgrades, but slotting multiple of them will help her. We'll just get him out for the sake of getting him out. Who next? Who next? Certainly, yeah, Evelyn, Morgan, Strix, Vi. Level. Love this affiliation, very fun. Morgan definitely needs a look, and the C team needs a look, but the acquisitions are very good right now, I think. Don't care, just do stuff. Yeah, so then we could get, or no, I don't want to look at you. I want to look at, we'll get Donner out. Wow, my brain just hard farted. We'll get Rosie. Good old Rosie. Oh, Caius, I'm not looking to scale everyone else's here. I'm just slotting them to look at certainty. I'm just choosing random specializations for everyone else. Cthulhu, yeah, Cthulhu. We'll get him out. Why? What party are you tied to, dog? I haven't used you anywhere. So, with all of that, it did bump it to an E6, whereas before it was an E5. So again, we're not looking at like a crazy boost from that. So you really don't, you're not required to have them all a part of it. But that did boost her up to E19 by slotting everybody, but also because, so we'll go over the rest of her kit. Certainty helps her father Omen by increasing the damage of Champions of Tymora adjacent to her, and she helps her Uncle Jim, increasing his damage by 200%. So, if you're using Omen and Certainty, you want Certainty to be adjacent to your damage dealer, because she will boost Tymora for those adjacent to her. Good group for Fortune's Wheel. So yeah, based on, I chose the Charisma from her specialization, but I have increased the stat provided from her choice to +2, so it's +2 instead of +1. But also then, Certainty assesses the average score of her preferred ability of the champions in the column in front of her and increases the damage of Secretarian's Advice by 200% for each full point over 13, stacking multiplicatively. I probably should have paid more attention to who I was slotting, because you want to scale that as high as you can for her. This is the reason you use Cthulhu sometimes, not Certainty, but the big boys. And then, of course, she has Reboot Expert, which increases the effect of Secretarian's Advice each time she has been in an adventure for at least 250 areas when it is reset. So this doesn't make her great necessarily for a speed team by any stretch, but if you're just passively farming some variants, you'll want her slotted in there if you're looking to beef her up. I haven't gotten a crazy amount of stacks, 2,600. If you're using Jim DPS, put him in a column with Vi with Intelligence Spec, yeah. But you can see at that stage it's increasing by another E6. So her buff can get pretty good, and she is a gold find champion in a slot with other gold finders, but she can get to a decently high amount of gold find. Yeah, I think she's pretty good. It's not too hard to get her Secretarian's advice to a decent buff number. Is she going to top charts with it? No, but it gets to above average, to decently high. And she affects ability scores. Is that going to matter baseline? No, but like it was stated earlier, you can do things like make people qualify for an Int 13, whereas they couldn't have otherwise for Modron core purposes, or qualifying for other potential positional abilities from other champions. Although, I think intelligence only matters for Dhadius, who shares her seat, so... Does intelligence matter for anyone else? I don't recall offhand, but... Charisma can matter. Especially if you're doing something like Andreas from Seed 4, who needs more charisma to spread his buff. But yeah, we'll look at her availability though. Charisma helps with Teriel too. Yep, for sure. Problem about her gold is that she really needs the affiliation. Without that, she's met. That is true. I mean, yeah. It technically could be with Whittle. What is Whittle's options? Hers are a weird combo of options, but yeah. But let's look at her availability real quick. And she's a fairly new champion, so whenever you're dealing with a fairly new champion, you know that they will be available for Elminster for a while. So, again, came out 225 days ago, so available for Elminster for quite a while. She is good, so available for Mert. She does not have the con, and has... That is interesting that while she affects ability scores, she has no ability score increasing feats of her own. So, unavailable for Vajra, but does have the intelligence for Strahd, and the strength and charisma for Zariel. And she has very good ability score layout overall, making her available for every Day 1 Trials restriction. So only unavailable for Vajra, and will be available for Elminster for quite a while. So good availability. Yeah, but her synergy with her affiliation is big, not necessary because of what she brings, but because of how she scales Jim, Evelyn, and Strix. Yeah, absolutely. I think she is a good design balance of being useful on her own, but being better with her affiliation. But yeah, she absolutely does scale. God. She does absolutely do better with her affiliation. No doubt. But previously, and this was a fairly recent rank again, because she came out so recently, which 200 days ago being that recent is kind of funny to say, but I had Certainty Dran in an A-. There she is, yeah. Wow, she was hiding from me. Yeah, the fact Talon was next to her is funny because of my old ranking, but she might take a little bit of a dip, but I still think she's very good. We'll take a look. She's... Big dip? I don't think it's going to be a big dip, but it's definitely a dip. I mean, I guess it depends on how you quantify big, but... Bottom of B+, you think? I was thinking, yeah. She's a witch, burn her. Her buffing is decent on its own and only gets better with her affiliation. And because of the changes to that affiliation, they are all very good, actually. They're not exactly wasted slots. And she does have the added niche of having great availability, while also scaling up other people's ability scores. Unique mechanics, decent buffing. I think she's in the B+ range. Thinking in front of or behind Sentry. She's good, but could you use someone better than her in the same slot? Double race, double class, cooking up with weird folk hero. Even with our crew, Val is usually the better pick. Again, you're not necessarily wrong. I do try to rank them just based on what their kit is, not what they're competing against in their slot. Sometimes you have to consider that, but... Second best affiliation behind AA. At this point, for raw buffing power, potentially, yeah. I'm thinking B+, I'm just thinking where. Behind Korth, I think she makes it into the B+. I don't think she quite dips into the B-. I do think she's close to that just flat B range, though. Oh, man. Only gonna get harder the more we rank. Looking at it this deep. Because while Korth does also affect ability scores, he only affects dexterity, which can matter. But he does have lower buffing potential than her. And she has really good availability. And synergizes with a decent affiliation. I can see her squeezing in front of Sentry. Being between B-Bag and... Better than Kreidel. Kreidel's buffing falls slightly behind her, but he is the most unique, useful tank in the game with his evasion tanking. Dirge is the most useful tank in the game. You think she's worse than Presto? I think Presto, debuffing plus buffing considered, with his unique mechanics, with the horizon of 78 or lower ability score mattering for a lot more things. Evelyn and Jim are just good without needing any investment. That affiliation definitely got a boost, for sure. Jim is so good now. You like where she is, Sinister? I'm thinking about it, but... Especially the more we go, everyone's going to disagree more and more, too. She doesn't deserve to be with the speedsters. I disagree. Even if I moved her, she would be either just behind them, right in the same bracket. But she's unique enough. And you seem to have a lot of hate for her for some reason, Dark Warrior. I do believe you were saying, burn the witch. Yeah, the more we go through, again, we'll tinker as time goes on. But I think I'm going to leave her there for now. It'll be interesting the more we get up there. Because she's F tier. See, when you're fighting for certainty to be F tier, that brings into question your entire opinion. So confused about Presto's ranking for you, he's way too high. Also say the component's ability is complete trash because upgrade parts are usually not the parts you're missing. That I also don't necessarily... I can see you not putting as much stock into it. But he is also one of the very few pre-stack debuffers, and his buffing plus his debuff together can put out decent numbers. But, again, we'll look at things as time goes on. Keep trying to... She's definitely better than the speed guys. I see what you're saying. I actually missed that comment of thinking better than Whittle and Sentry. That's the thing is, yes, they will always be slotted in a speed formation. If we were doing a speed tier list, things would be completely different. We are not doing exclusively a speed tier list. We are doing what their entire kit offers to the game as a whole. And in that scenario, Whittle and Sentry don't put up good buffing numbers, and that has to be considered as far as this list goes. Maybe when we're done with this, we'll do exclusively a speed tier list, and that will look vastly different. Yeah, Pills, no. His is a multiplicative pre-stack scaling 5-stacking debuff. Craps out. The concept of crapping out a chest. Ow. Anyway, we're going to move on for now, but... Get out of here. Let's wipe the board. Good old Jim, giving everyone a random costume. Alright, let's see, we should probably move on to Dhadius, and then Evandra, Valentine, Briv. So yeah, I think we'll look at Dhadius next. Recently got a rework. Dhadius. So, the Big Daddy. So, Dhadius will increase the damage of champions with 14 or more intelligence within 2 slots of him, for each champion it is affecting, so it scales decently with itself. So, with his specializations, you can affect that in multiple ways. The effect of skill empowerment is increased for each champion in the formation with a magical-based attack, or who doesn't have a magical-based attack. At the end of the day, if you can make it happen, the magical will scale a little harder because he is magical, therefore you'll always have that 1 count on top of whatever else you do. But if you are using him with a team that isn't magical, of course you'll take this side. But then he also has a second choice, where chromatic orbs will now deal more damage, flat increase the effect of skill empowerment, or make those with a 12 intelligence, not 14, count for it, which makes it apply to a lot more people. And that is a lot more important now because its effect scales with how many people it is affecting. So, that is often going to be a pick because 14 int is very steep, but 12 int is surprisingly just that little bit of a gap. Makes a lot more champions qualify for it. But the chromatic orbs... So, we'll just go over the rest of his list entirely. Practice makes perfect. Enemies hit by chromatic orb, his main attack, are debuffed based on the orb's type. He cycles through acid, frost, and fire. Each debuff increases the damage of subsequent orbs of the same type, stacking multiplicatively. This is a way for him to scale his DPS, and that is it. It is a, quote, debuff, but that being said, it's not debuffing for the team, it's only scaling his damage based on that same element type hitting that debuffed champion. Chromatic Wonder, however, he will keep track of the total number of sets of all 3 orb types he casts in the current area. He will increase the effect of skill empowerment by 100% for each set, stacking multiplicatively and capping at 20. So the longer you stay in an area, he will further boost this up. Dhadius being in the same slot as Val makes his buff really hard to get up to where it could be. He has that skill, make his skills available for dumbasses. The dumber they are. But then he also has the way to scale with his specialization, whichever one you choose. But, so this is not going to be the average bonus, as he's been in this range for quite a while, so we'll let him move get back to 0, see what a lower end would be. Same as Val's Briv is kind of a knock against everyone in this seat. Again, at the end of the day, yes. There's going to be better people in a seat than other champions. The tier list as a whole is meant to be a representation of the mechanics of the champion and not who they're competing against. If you want to see the highest ranked champion in every seat, they're going to be higher anyway. So, we're not ranking them based on who they're competing against in their seat most of the time. Because if you just want to S-slot find everyone's best positioning, it's going to be based on their mechanics anyway. But yes. So, after just a little bit, he's getting an E4 buff to it, which scales it up, but we need to get more people skill empowered, so let's get some people out there to be affected by it. Gotta think about who will qualify here. 12 int. BBG will work. Yeah, Bailoff works. I actually don't know your int. Yeah, you're not. You too dumb. Too dumb. What is Shadowheart? 10 int, yeah, so that doesn't work. I mean, we'll just throw out DM. What is your int? You do qualify. Okay. So do you. So do you. And so do you. That works. You know, Emote does not deny that Prudence isn't ideal. I think Emote even moved on to just a, for shits and giggles, Vin Ursa DPS team, last I heard. Not that that's a good thing either. But, so, now that we have 10 people affected by skill empowerment, with it buffed up a little bit with Chromatic Wonder. Actually, I should... Okay, we'll do that too, though. But he currently is of 7 stacks with Together and Magic, so not a full stack of that, but fairly high, leaning in that direction. And he's getting to E22. That is a pretty good buff, all things considered, and it is positional. And he is a DPS, so a DPS with a positional does mean he qualifies to be useful for Artemis. I think he's become decent. As far as that rework, well, we'll go into his availability first, though. Where you at? Where you at? Where you at, Daddy? So, his availability is not the greatest. He is neutral, so he does not qualify for Mert. He only has 10 con with, I mean, even at 10 he wouldn't anyways, but no abilities. Ability score increases with feats. So not available for Evandra, but is available for Strahd at that high int. Is not available for Zarya with that low strength and charisma. Will be available for Elminster because he snuck in that rework in an event only 64 days ago. So he will be available for Elminster for a long time. However, with that low strength, that low wisdom, and his lower constitution, he will be knocked out of those 3 day 1 trials. So his availability is on the bad end. Patron-wise, Strahd and Elminster, and only 3 half of the day 1 trials. So not good availability. In part isn't even really important for increasing his buff. I was a little surprised when they did the rework that they didn't make him like Dynahair, in that it was pre-stack, but they didn't, so yeah. I kind of expected skill empowerment to become pre-stack. So, he becomes good. Not good availability, but that buff can be good. It's still a bit restrictive, because it does require people to be within a intelligence check. Dhadius slot 1 item and slot are both pre-stack? I don't believe so. Are they? I don't think so. Now I gotta think about this. Together in Magic actually is, right? But I don't think they both are. They both are? I thought it was just his, now I gotta look to see if I'm just misremembering. Oh no, you're right. I forgot, yeah, it's his self-DPS one. Right. I was thinking you were talking about a different equipment slot. Kind of similar to, Presto in that regard, in that one, it's his self-DPS, so that does matter if you want to use him as your DPS, but that will only get to 5 debuffs, so you're not going to get the craziest scaling out of it, even though it is pre-stack, but still, something to consider. But yeah, the, I forgot about the specialization scaling, is pre-stack, yes. Yeah, Chromatic Wonder is not. And that is what I thought was being talked about. That is why I made that mistake, yeah. But I think he's good. He's not the greatest, and his availability kind of sucks, but he's good. After his rework, we placed him in B+, I believe. Yeah, B+. Let's just go straight to the tier list. Who does he work well with? I mean, he can work well with anybody who fits within his parameters of 12 or lower int, which is quite a few people. I'll pull up a DPS list, but he can work with Artemis, being a DPS with a positional. And of course, there's the argument. In this scenario, yes, sharing a seat with Valentine does affect that, because Valentine will probably be your pick for Artemis. But as far as who all DPS-wise he can affect, I'll pull up a list here. DPS. Oops. Okay, how do I want to show this? Let's, he would most certainly be a part of an Artemis formation if Valentine wouldn't exist. Yeah, and in times where if you're locked out of Valentine, he will be an instant lock for that seat for an Artemis team. Screw. Yeah, that's, we'll get that right in. Does that work? That'll work. It looks kind of funny though. We'll just, we'll just go to this scene. Boop. So, there's definitely a few options out there. A lot of them aren't ideal. Most currently, the Dark Urge, but of course he wants Ceremorphosis stacks. And a lot of them are the ones who, yeah, looking at it now, a lot of them, he could work with the reworked Grama if you happen to be using her as a DPS. Not going to be ideal for Krond, as not evil and doesn't have the strength. Does squeeze into a Farida if you happen to use her. While you do want Tieflings, there's the Seat 5 Tiefling isn't going to be what you use for a Farida team. Could work for Jim, but again, Jim, it is a problem in that a lot of them are ones you're probably using as a buffer, not a DPS when we're talking about Strix, Zorbu, Birdsong, these days, Jim, Fen. Yeah, so it's fair that even with the 12 int, it is very restrictive. I was thinking there was a few more in there, but so that is definitely something to consider. But he's locked out that, yeah. He's really good in Witchlight, but his numbers and wheel can't get very big, even at best. He's definitely harder to spread his 2-slot in wheel for sure too, yeah. So no, that's fair. Taking into consideration both his both his just restrictive nature, availability-wise, and then who he buffs with his buff. While he can reach good numbers, it is restrictive, absolutely. Yeah, another human wizard, yeah. C+ due to restriction. It is, yeah, not only does he have bad availability, he is also naturally very restrictive. It's true. I do like the numbers and mechanics, but you can't not consider that. I swear he had more people that qualified. That's wild. My brain put him in a position where he was buffing more with that -12, but it was more restrictive than I recalled. Oops. This is an interesting one. That's why Spurt needs to drop a few grades. There are more DPS with feats. There are, but it's not as much as I thought. When I was looking at that again. Because I believe with feats it included... Gotta pull that back up now. With feats, it does include Black Viper and Lucius and Dahani. I mean, those are other options, but again, I guess yeah, because it's kind of useful for Black Viper, but at the end of the day, being a wizard, she doesn't buff his with Aura and Infamy, so he's not ideal for Black Viper. You glitch certainty into the same formation. Sounds like his value is related to how many places he can be used that Valentine can't. Black Viper rework coming in 2023? In the past? Yeah, I do admit in this moment, I thought he qualified for a bit more as far as who he buffed. I do like his rework. I think he's interesting. I think he is good. But the amount of times he can be used and who he can even be used with is definitely a big knock. He does qualify for Elminster for quite a while now, yeah. Elminster will be clutch potentially, and especially as he does at least buff Dirge. Yeah, his supporting technically is pretty good as far as what he does, but who he can offer it to is rough. I I'm dancing. My initial gut is to put him at the bottom of B-, is my gut reaction. But I've just been dancing with that in my brain. B+, you think? Above Veronica? Yeah, I could see being above, maybe just above the black dice. Well, yeah, no, even in between Desmond and Veronica, it kind of does make sense, actually. Maybe that. And even looking at this, I kind of feel like Korth is better than Veronica. She does have Daddy, though. What do we feel about that between Desmond and Veronica? You're more partial to Lizard Guy? Yeah, I actually foresee... I kind of feel like even that. Push Veronica down just a little bit. That's personal, though, so... In Warduke formations for Dex cores, yeah. Samurai Ninja. That is a bit of an oxymoron. It's in the right category. That must have matters me. Yeah. Well, we'll get into a fist fight at the end of stream. It's basically hitting the most important ones. Maybe kicked in. Samurai Lizard. Yeah. I think that's where we're going to put him for now. But again, there will be more discussion, more bloodshed later. So, wipe the board. Calliope done, Pwent done, Xander done, Briv, Viconia done. We'll probably do Evandra next, and then do Valentine and Briv at the end. Evandra's a little, what I like to call a goober, a little stinker. Because I love her, but why does she have to be neutral only? So, let's just go right through her. Evandra the Magnificent. Evandra can be used in any Wild Beyond the Witchlight campaign, adventure, or variant, even if she would not normally be available, due to variants or patron restrictions. She buffs all the neutrals only, right? Yeah. Goofy Goober. So, Freedom's Fury. Evandra increases the damage of all neutral, good/evil Axis champions. I wish we were getting a feat that changed it one way or the other, or she had a way, like Vi, to decide to lean into another way, one way or the other, but no. She can only buff neutral. However, this buff can be scaled in many ways to become quite good, and her availability within Witchlight is important because of a specialization pick, and we will look at those now. Uh-oh, list is big. Where's her face? There it is. So, she will scale Freedom's Fury for each female or non-binary champion, stacking multiplicatively and applying multiplicatively, or each fighter, barbarian, ranger, or paladin in the formation, stacking similarly, or every total ability score of 78 or less, while also pulling in all of the Awful Ones champions to be used in Witchlight with her. So not only does she have good Witchlight availability, she can pull the entire affiliation in, which is very good. Oh, Dark Warrior. I'm going to allow, but I will remind you, While I allow these things sometimes, Twitch will shadow ban people for saying slight weird things like that. So, just you be aware. I won't have anything to do with it. Just be aware of what Twitch does on their own. Do you think Evandra is worth using your event slot over Jaheira if AA is your main team? As she doesn't have a Ceramorphosis feat yet, but will be getting one. If you need to push Witchlight, Evandra can be a very important pick, especially if you have other awful ones. Regardless of that, just the term slap her behind can be something auto-detected by Twitch. They cover stuff like that on their own and will automate it with AI. I can't control it, and they can just shadow ban you for saying just random crap like that. Not up to me. I'm just warning you is all I'm doing. For you is drinking the hyper-restrictive Witchlight variants. Yeah. And have you done all your Witchlight variants? If you're referring to me, yes, I have. So yeah, so you will just choose whichever specialization is the most populated option in your formation, or the third if you need to pull in the awful ones. And more, we seem to be getting that 78 ability score or less between the absolute adversaries, the awful ones, and the Saturday morning squad coming out. That seems to be becoming a more populated option. So we'll just scale that up so you can see what her buff can get to. Let's get the pink one. And yeah, you do. I always forget that BBEG technically does just have that low of an ability score total. I don't know why. I forget that. It makes sense. Let's get some... Evandra is a reasonable choice, but obviously so is Jaheira. Okay, let's get some more out. Oops. Does Strongheart? Yeah, no, Strongheart has a high TOT. I'm looking for low TOT right now. My brain, I mean, I can get a Starion, yeah. My brain not work good. I mean, I guess Dirge. Yeah. Oh yeah, duh. Diana. That's a lot of zombies, yeah. That awful one synergy does make a lot of zombos. I mean, that is true. If you want big boy, lots of zombies, you would throw Strongheart in there to become part of the awful ones. But we are looking specifically at Evandra. Where are you? Now that we're 10 of 10, we're increasing it by an E9. She also, though... when her health is brought to 0, she loses her left arm, but returns to full health. Her arm regrows after moving to a new area, so you can take that hit once. While missing her arm, she increases the damage bonus of Freedom's Fury for each second she had her arm in the current area. The kind of problem with this is, while it is a quick little life save, all she does is return to full health. She doesn't have anything that keeps her lingering in the area. So you'll want to pair her with someone like Baloth, which is a problem because Antris is in the same place, or Dirge to bring her back. But the problem with that is she'll just die again. Like, if you're getting to a point where she's died, it's probably scaled the damage up enough to where when she gets to full health, she'll probably just die again. Oh, you just want everyone to see the zombies? I'll pull them out in a second. Looking forward to watching this VOD. Sorry you missed the live stream. Oh, you don't got to apologize ever for that, Rondo. Don't worry about that. Catch it when you can. That's all I care, is that you're even here in the first place. Strix as well with Death Ward. Yeah, there are some ways you can mitigate that with Death Ward, Baloth's save, Dirge's save, etc., etc. Baseline, however, that's not going to be the greatest thing if you're just using her, because she's just going to die, come back, and probably die right away again, and you won't make good use out of that buff, but there are ways you can. But even just where we are right now, with 10 people slotted from her specialization choice, she's pumping out an E18. That's not too bad. However, very restrictive in that it will only affect neutral champions. In Witchlight, however, if you're in severe restrictions, she will pull in her affiliation, and Nixie is a neutral DPS. So you will always at least have that option to pair with her in those harsh variants of Witchlight. So, not a complete waste, but as far as just her buffing in general, not the greatest. We'll go ahead and pump out Strongheart to give the Zombos a go. Watch them plod. E18 is C tier numbers. That I disagree with. However, she does only buff neutral. But, use the ult. Where are we? It is that one, right? Yeah. Zombos are coming. Amazing for a tank, to be fair. You know, Evelyn and Karlak and Crux are all better, but they probably shouldn't be. I don't know if I agree. Look at them Zombos. I don't know if I agree with that necessarily, but, yeah. Tanks can often be a little on the lower end. Brains. A lot of Zombos. That's why we need to pair it with, like, Miria. Summoning her skellies. And even though she shares a seat Viconia for spawning those daddies, just get dead people all over the place. Yeah, and I was just about to go over that Chibi as well. We're not quite done with Evandra's kit because Evandra also gives gold. She's a gold find champion with Find the Secret Stash. The computer is really working today. Increases the formation's gold find by 100% every time a champion attacks, but does not defeat an enemy. Increasing this bonus, stacking additively up to 120 times, and then applying multiplicatively. This, in an Azaka farm, will likely be best in slot for just raw gold find. If you, and a lot of people likely do, have leveled up Valentine with a lot of item levels, she can remain competitive. But in a situation where you're specifically doing an Azaka farm, this will scale up and she will have very good gold find. Probably less bonus points than she used to. Azaka farming isn't quite as easy and relevant as it used to be. Mostly Dirty Farm is almost as good. Yeah, it is true that they have continually made Azaka farming a lot harder to set up by, first of all, nerfing Jimothy. Second of all, Havilar can't stack her speed anymore. And you barely Azaka farmed the whole time playing. It's a lot harder to do now. And because of that, yeah, it's still effectively the best way to do it. It is much more difficult to set up though. So in the scenario where you're just raw farming gold, she's not going to stack up Find the Secret Stash, and she will not put up good gold find. However, I mean, she still puts up decent gold find, just not the best. If you're in an Azaka farm though, she will put up great gold find numbers. Before you forge, yeah. Yeah, fortune wheel. So yeah, she does have her uses in Witchlight, pulling in her affiliation with her, and potentially good gold find. Her buffing gets to decent numbers, but it's only neutral. That is very restrictive. And then even when you consider the neutral DPS, I mean a big one, what? Black Viper, she's a fighter, so she doesn't scale with Aura of Infamy. I mean, you do technically have Jaheira. You have Nahara, but again, are you really using Nahara as your main DPS? Man, I should probably pull up a list so I don't forget any neutral DPS. Again, the only person that comes to mind if you're using the awful ones and trying to buff a different DPS is Lucius. He is neutral, he will count for the charisma restriction from Nixie, he will count for the int restriction from BBEG. However, Lucius isn't necessarily the most poppin' DPS either. DPS with the alignment of neutral. So yeah, I mean, that's true. Again, we do have Grama, who just got a rework and isn't necessarily the worst damage dealer. But there is a Shara. And yeah, Jim is a potentiality. But again, those like Jim and Birdsong are often better used as a support for someone else these days. You do have Yorvin, but who's really using Yorvin as their DPS? You have Jamila, who's really using Jamila as their DPS. You have Azaka, who's really using Azaka as their core actual DPS. But yeah, again, yeah, Jim is a good selection, but again, Jim almost just works better as a support because his numbers are all also shared with whoever he buffs as a DPS. But Jim is a possibility. So, Evandra previously had her in the C+, I believe. Yeah. And again, that is the problem with Evandra, is she has her uses. In Goldfine, Azaka, in Witchlight, pulling in the awful ones, and buffing neutral. But buffing neutral is a harsh restriction, all things considered. She's not worse than Calliope. Yeah. Well, let's pull up the... Well, let's look at her availability, actually. We didn't do that yet, I don't think. So, being neutral herself, she is not available for Mert. She does have a high enough con to be available for Vajra. She has naturally 12 int, but she does have an intelligence feat, so will be available for Strahd. And with Zariel, she does have the 2 charisma to become available for Zariel as well. So, locked out of 2, but can qualify for both of them with feats. Will be available for Elminster for quite a while. She's been out for about a year, 351 days, 1,095 being the cutoff. And then naturally available for all day ones except for the low wisdom. So if we consider feats, she's only unavailable for Mert and wisdom lockout day 1. However, in Mert, she'll still be available for the Witchlight variants within Mert. So, not terrible availability. Let's look at the current list. Yeah, Calliope has seen a shift to the lower C-. Elminster in Spanish is the Minster. Are you making a El Nino joke right now? El Nino in Spanish is the Nino. How's her HP compared to other tanks? I believe she is dead on average, right? She does have a health equipment slot, but I don't think she has any health boosting formation abilities. I mean, yeah, standard health for a tank. Yeah. You were not? That's actually surprising if you were not. Referencing, oh no. Ain't no way I'm forgetting his name right now. Chris Farley. Let's see. She is useful for Witchlight. She is useful for Azaka farming. She has a decent buff. Definitely above average, all things considered. But only buffs neutral with it. Which is a rougher side to deal with when we're talking about DPS. You think B minus? Near with Nixie. B minus, but knock someone down to C plus because their tier is too empty. Top of C plus. Everyone seems to be in the range of C plus to B minus, and I was thinking in that C plus to flat C. What if gatekeep C plus? What if we make Evandra... Stop it. Oh, it's all moving now. There we go. What if we make Evandra the gatekeeper of C plus? Make her the highest of that tier instead of the lowest of another? Basically tank Merowyn. Maybe just you, but you think Witchlight relevancy is pretty valuable now. You're not wrong. I'm thinking maybe the gatekeeper of C+. Knock down Veronica, but that could be personal bias. If Veronica's an interesting one. I just wish they allowed you to control her inner circle. Or would at least rework BDS to work better with each other. I think we'll leave it like this for now. But again, we've moved things along as we go a lot. I think her being the gatekeeper of C+ is fitting, though. Whoop. Whoop, whoop. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So, that means... with good RNG is pretty strong. It's an E20 buff. For me, well, I mean, yeah, I could probably scale close to E20. That being said, getting your DPS with her pick is nigh impossible. Too much RNG. Now, let's see. We've gone through Calliope, Qillek, Dhadius, Pwent, Prudence, Xander, Viconia, Certainty, and Evandra, leaving us with Valentine and Briv. Oh, which to do first between Briv and Valentine? They are both big ones to talk about. 2 hours of resets to find a DPS, yeah. Oof. Valentine, Briv save the fight. I don't think we're really going to be fighting over these two necessarily. Valentine, a lot of Valentine first. Okay, we'll go Valentine first. Boy, is there a lot to talk about with Valentine. And I think most of you already know her mechanics, but we will go over them, like we do with everything else. So, first of all, she has Trigram. For each positional formation ability affecting Valentine, she increases the damage of all champions with the DPS role. So, you're not going to boost anyone who isn't a DPS, but obviously it's the most important to boost your DPS anyway. But that also means you want positionals. You want as many positionals on her as possible. Sometimes, based on your formation and favor/blessings acquired, you can get positionals just by being slotted within the formation. In Tomb of Annihilation, that means the back column and the edges, so just by being there, she's receiving 2, naturally. But you want as many then as you can, from your other supports to get more positionals, not just flat buffing all damage or restricted things like alignment or ability score based things. You need positionals. Valentine is a red-headed half-elf, immediate S+. Tregram, the buff Valentine has that doesn't even matter for her kit. It matters. It doesn't matter for why you use her, but it matters. We'll just go ahead and get out my Artemis team just for the sake of this. So with everything I'm doing here, she's getting 10. With 10, she's getting an E13 buff from Tregram. The biggest reason she is so important is Socialite. So Valentine duplicates any positional formation ability that is affecting her to champions in the formation with a DPS role. So at first glance, you don't need your DPS receiving a formation ability, she will share it. However, you do want your DPS to receive it as well, because if the receiving champion already has the formation ability, that formation ability is instead boosted by an amount. This will happen after Artemis's observation. What that means is he will observe everything first, and then that buff happens. You're not going to pre-buff formation abilities for him to observe, but still, if he's affected by them after all that's calculated, they will still be boosted by Socialite's item level scaling. So, that's why she's the most important, well, not one of the most important champions in the game for supporting. Is a lot of positionals are great buffs, and she can scale them for any DPS, while still buffing them with Tregram. So she's increasing everyone's positionals, while also offering a slightly above average buff of her own. Very good. But we're not done yet. She is also a gold find champion. Valentine increases the formation's gold find for each positional formation ability affecting her, scaling multiplicatively. With item level investment, you can make this rather high. And she does have a place in many gold find formations, but she does share a seat with a lot of gold finders like Certainty and Evandra that we went over. Valentine's on average will be just a good flat number because you'll often invest item levels into her. A mommy and elf best buffer in seat. You guys are really into redheads. Effectively pre-buff, she gets Socialite for every buff that Artemis gets naturally, and then every buff he observes each time it is observed. Just got in here. Who'd I miss? You've missed everyone except Valentine and Briv. We're nearing the end. But we're on Valentine right now. So we'll go over her specializations. If I can find her. I know I can go seat by seat and specifically find her. I like looking for them because I'm stupid. There we go. Her specializations are... Come on. Valentine, focus on helping other champions deal as much damage as possible. So you will either... Tregram's pre-stack damage increased by 25%, or if Valentine is affected by Tatiana's faithful friend, it is increased by 200%, or you increase her gold find. You cannot increase Socialite in any way or form here, so you can, however, with feats, Socialite and Socialite. You definitely want those if you're using her, as that will be the way she boosts everyone else's positionals, especially effective for Artemis. As you can see, my Artemis team reaching E1000, and a lot of that, not all of it obviously, but a lot of that does come from how powerful she can be, boosting positionals on top of his observance. It can get quite good. But let's go ahead and look at her availability. Hurry up and level. Level up. He has so many levels. So, her availability. She is neutral, so she will not be available for Mert. Naturally has high con, well, equal con to Vadra's restriction, so will be available for Vajra. In Strahd, you can equip a feat. Hello? You can equip, where is it? Her int feat to make her qualify for Strahd. However, if you happen to be using Nahara for Strahd, Nahara can just pull her in anyway. So if you're going to use Nahara, you don't need to get that feat. But Zariel, she does have a strength feat to give her 10 strength, and she has 17 charisma, so can be available for Elminster, and is currently available for, I think I said Elminster, so I meant Zariel. Now, with Elminster, she is available for Elminster. She came out 659 days ago, so will be available for about a year still, so she's got some good usage left. And naturally available for all day one. So, mostly you just won't be using her for Mert. However, with feats, you can make her available for everything else. So pretty good availability. Best girl, oh no, you have a year. So yeah, decent flat buffing, scales other positionals, which gets crazy. Decent gold find, decent availability. One of the best overall buffers in the game, all things considered. And with the feats, I mean, even then, the dexterity feat can be important for her as well, as a note. Not because she needs to qualify for things necessarily, although that does make her qualify as a count for the dexterity core. It will also make her viable to receive Zorbu's Hunter's Pack. So you want her observing that positional to boost it with Socialite, so that dexterity feat, if you're using Zorbu, can be important. Valentine is peak support champion design. It's hard to ignore that. And she's, as they have really, it's not a problem. It's created a situation when we're talking about Artemis, we're talking about Warduke, we're talking about Valentine, all of them all together very good. I don't know what the right word is, but we'll just call it a problem for now. The problem is that makes everything have to be positional to matter to a lot of people. Because they are stuck in using Valentine, they're stuck in using Artemis, they're stuck in using Warduke. If a champion arrives with a non-positional, people consider that dead on arrival. And I think that is a problem for the overall design of the game. But yeah. One of the best supports with gold, as the sweet delicious cherry on top, yeah. She's kind of the strong but in line for DPS that aren't Artemis. I think, I do think it has kind of bottlenecked the game into being positionally based. And I think that, again, I think that's a problem for the overall health of the game. However, if we're talking about cream of the crop, best of the best, she is definitely up there as a support. Previously, she was not an S tier. At the time when she came out, I ranked her very high, though, still. In the... where is she? I don't see her. She's in the A+ somewhere. There she is, yeah, in the A+. It is hard to deny, especially by today's standards of how they're developing the game and how everything works together. Hopefully a good Saturday squad DPS gives a positional alternative. It's hard to. It would be nice to see something like that be brought into the game, but it is hard to deny in the current state of the game how important she can be if you're looking to min-max. And when we're talking about objectively, as her roles are support and gold, she can be a good gold find, one of the best supports in the entire game. It's hard to deny a push up to S. It really is. And most people are fighting for her to be an S anyway. I don't think anyone here is going to disagree with me. Now, with people saying her being above Artemis, I can almost even agree with that. Simply because she's not only best in slot for Artemis, she's best in slot for most DPS you're going to use. So it's kind of hard to deny her usefulness to everyone in the game. Go back to this real quick. That being said, yeah, it's just hard to deny. It really is. Her scaling is... It's become the de facto scaling of the game. Which has been like a half-tier bump for everyone. Yeah, she's so good everywhere. The only time she's not good is if you're dealing with non-positionals. And these days, you generally are just dealing with positionals. You wouldn't agree with that? Artemis as best DPS is giving everyone the bud they need? I mean, but that's only if you focus on Artemis as your DPS. You can still focus on other DPS and never use Artemis and reach your bud through them, and Valentine will still be useful for them, is kind of the point there. She's still very useful even for absolute adversaries, because she's one of the few sorcerers to give Dirge another sorcerer. Yeah, and Artemis doesn't quite for Elminster, and that has become currently a big argument against Artemis, is Elminster just flat out restricts him, whereas he used to be available for everything. Artemis without Valentine is like A+. I still don't if Valentine disappeared from the game, Artemis would still be the best scaling DPS. She'll be number 1 for a short time, but my heart is she will always be number 1. So yeah, it really is just hard to deny how good she is. My cat scratched me. I'm bleeding. She can be a bit awkward with Warduke. Not wrong. She does get a little wonky positionally with Warduke. But you would choose Dirge or Warduke to invest in because Elminster. These days, potentially, yeah. And I love Warduke, but his availability is a bit iffy. And it's hard for me to not recommend Dirge to newcomers, honestly. His availability is amazing, best in game, tied with DM, and he does actually just have good scaling on top of that. A little bit restrictive though, but still. And Valentine again slots in good with the absolute, not only because she's a sorcerer, to give him that sorcerer count for folk hero. Most of their buffs are positional as well, so all of the Ceramorphosis scaling with their positionals being buffed by Socialite gets really good. You just can't deny it. She the best girl. She really do be. And you know what that leaves us with? That leaves us with Briv. Being half-elf also isn't a problem for folk hero. There are some scenarios it can be, but usually it's not, yeah. Who was it? Oh well, doesn't matter. I was gonna go on a little tangent there, but no need. Briv. He's a funny one. So, we'll just go... It's Shart. Yeah, well, I know Shart, but there was a third one that was some... Oh, it's if you use Jaheira with them as well, is when it can start getting iffy. But, Briv, the tanking, healing, support, and speed champion. We'll just go straight through his formation abilities. Most people know where this is headed, but hasn't been a problem for you yet. Yeah, and you wouldn't be using Jaheira most of the time as she doesn't have her Ceramorphosis feat yet, but she might see more use with them soon when that happens, and that adds another half-elf, so but still, you would use Valentine over Jaheira for that probably anyway. Anyway, Steel Bones. Whenever Briv comes under attack, metal shoots out of his pores and covers him in strong armor. While armored, Briv takes less damage and gains Steel Bone stacks whenever hit by an enemy attack. So he does need to farm up Steel Bones, as that will affect his other formation abilities, as we'll see below. Netherese Steel. He will increase the damage of all champions behind him by a small, very small amount for each stack of Steel Bones he has gained. This is the only downside to Briv, is no matter how much you stack up Steel Bones, his buff is never going to be amazing. It will be flat on average. She got the feat. Oh, did she get the feat? Did she? I thought it was coming later. They introduced the feat now? Am I tripping? Hold on. Oh, there you go. I actually missed that, yeah. So Jaheira does now have the Ceramorphosis feat. I thought it was coming later. I missed that. Good catch. So you can get the Ceramorphosis from Jaheira today. I actually didn't realize that. Well, there you go. Anyway. Yeah, so the biggest problem with Briv is his buffing will always be average. So does she go in a dirge formation now? She can fit into a dirge formation. She's not going to fill any dire holes you had in it, though. As a fighter, she'll always count as another fighter on top of Lae'zel. As a half-elf, she will always count as another half-elf on top of Shadowheart. In some scenarios, though, if you're just pushing and looking for Ceramorphosis stacks, like, she'll fit in probably better than Viconia, better than Minsk, things like that. AI feats finally got out of season exclusivity too. Okay, so we must have reached a threshold for them just releasing the new feats then. She's good if you don't have enough DPS around her. Yeah, and that's another thing is, as Jaheira is a DPS, she will offer that formation another DPS possibility to be adjacent to Dirge for his living on the edge. So she has ways to synergize with them now, especially with that Ceramorphosis feat. Is she going to be ideal? Probably not. But if you're looking to just have Ceramorphosis, she's definitely a better buffer than Viconia and Minsk. Because her buffing can get decent, at least. Anyway, Briv. Yeah, so his buffing flat on average, but he gets unnatural haste. Briv sprints forward quickly on Steel Springs after completing a new area, skipping the next blah 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 areas entirely, scaling with his equipment for that slot. I am using a feat that locks him at 4 just for now because I was going boss to boss, and for farming, blah blah blah. This action consumes his sprint stacks. So in order to farm up these skips, you take enough hits from Steel Bones, it will then carry over into the next run you do, and he will skip areas. This is by far, in my opinion, the most important speed mechanic in the game. As with gem farming, it is very common to get to 4 jump Briv, and then, if you're really looking to push, get to 9 jump Briv, because you can get to the point where you can skip bosses entirely in free play runs. Super important for farming gems, as you will just skip. Excuse me. In this run I did, I forget how far I pushed, but you can see I skipped 892 areas just in this run that I did right before I went live. Yeah, it's impossible to deny how important skipping is. And even if you get to a guaranteed 4 skip, you can go in a variant or new adventure, anything you're pushing, you can then, at 4 jumps, jump from boss to boss to boss, skipping all normal areas entirely, which completely negates the need for speed people. Otherwise, because Diana will still matter, and Shandy will still matter, as time acceleration will still matter, but reducing quest requirements won't be as important if you're just jumping from boss to boss, as that's not when those mechanics matter. So, very, very important for gem farming, very important for clearing fast, just top tier speed. And as you can scale a natural haste very deep, some people have gone crazy with it. You can get beyond 4 areas, but you sometimes want to lock it with his feet to just be 4 areas for certain encounters. There's also an extra source of Bud. Yeah, that is kind of a hidden mechanic for Jaheira, going back to her. Her auto attack vines are Bud, which can sometimes, in the same light of like Fen and stuff and Birdsong, clip her to make it look like she's your highest Bud, but that's just her Bud mechanic. Imagine Val gets a tadpole feat, good game everyone else. Yeah, I don't think she will, but that would be interesting. But yeah, so, we're not even done though. He is also the best healer in the game. Briv's pet Flumph Flow, I love the Flumph Flow, appears next to Briv and telepathically stores healing power whenever Briv is hit. After 10 hits, or 10 seconds, whichever comes first, Flow heals all champions in the party for 50% of the damage Briv took during that time. This is one of the only good scaling heals in the entire game, as it scales with damage taken. Say that 3 times fast. Flump flow, flump flow, flump flow, flump flow, flump flow. We're talking no matter how far you get, the heal is scaling off damage taken. And there are ways to buff healing with blessings and potentially pigments to make that heal go above that 50% threshold. essentially speaking, if Briv can take the 10 hits / survive for 10 seconds, he's almost immortal once you fully stack everything up and get a lot of buffs going. We will take a look at his specializations. And he's still going to get iced out. I mean, you get deep enough, he's just going to get hit too hard eventually. So it's not like he is immortal. And if you haven't buffed up his healing enough, and he doesn't have enough health to take the hit, you know, there are ways. But so his specializations. Unnatural Haste uses less sprint stacks, so you can jump further in your current run based on whatever you farmed up. You can increase his buff by a flat 100%, giving him a little more buffing power. Or increases the effect of healing flow to make him heal even more. More often than not, you're gonna take the sprint stack reduction because you're using him for jumps. But yeah, one of the best tanks in the game, one of the best speed in the game, one of the best healers in the game. It's just, he's just very good. Very, very good. Again, the only knock against him is his buffing isn't the best. It's also way over 100% with the Zariel Global perk. Yeah, yep. Many ways to scale it. I forgot to mention patrons as well. Yeah. You got Penelope 601 background party, so you can get that healing pigment for Briv. Yeah. I think that's the only healing pigment we've had so far, right? Is the one from Penelope. But yeah, it's hard to deny Briv's not only just usefulness, but importance to the game as a whole. As one of the best tanks, one of the best heals, one of the best speeds. Again, his support could stand to be better, but with everything he already offers, it's just hard. But let's look at his availability. Because if he's going to be that good, he better be available for things, right? So, he is good, so naturally available for Mert. He does have a higher con, so available for Evandra. However, his int is bang on average, so he will not be available for Strahd. But he does have the strength and the charisma to be available for Zariel. One of his problems is he will not be available for Elminster as he came out more than 1,095 days ago, sitting at 1,520. So the newest patron joining our rosters for patrons, he's not available for Elminster. That is a hit, but he is available for 3 of the 5. As far as day 1 trials, he will be locked out of the Wisdom with his low Wisdom, which I get more often than I want to. I get locked out of Wisdom very frequently. But that is the only one he will be locked out of. So I would say he is slightly above average availability. Not the best, but slightly above average. So, as far as where I had him ranked before, he was at the tippity top, S tier. He was just as important back in the day as he is now. It's hard to deny, just to the core game, what his jumps. I mean, a lot of people gauge their progression in the game by what jump their Briv is. That's how important that's become. A lot of people, I've been seeing that, a lot of people saying S tier below Val, above Artie. Just for the raw mechanics of the game, I don't necessarily disagree with that. Valentine as the best buffer with good, gold find, useful for everyone. Briv does have the minus of not being a good buffer. But as far as what he offers to the game, it's hard to deny his place as an S tier champion. He's probably even more important now just because Horse Girl and Diana, yeah. He breaks the gem economy. He's how you make Val Artemis powerful. I mean, yeah, he's how you invest item levels. He is how you farm. Top of S, you're going to start a brawl. I could see an argument for both. So, I'm not going to deny one way or the other necessarily. But as far as... yeah, it's just hard to deny that they both belong up there at this point. Counterpoint redhead half-elf. Counterpoint tall, muscular, bearded half-orc. Briv turns item levels into gems. Valentine turn item levels into scales. Counterpoint. Springs go burr. I see our counterpoints are devolving. Put a beard on Val and give her a sword. Don't know if I agree with that one. We already have one Clint in the game, and that's in F tier. We don't need another Clint. But yeah, Seat 5 is an interesting one. Everybody kind of expected, I think, Valentine and Briv to make their way up to S. We had our first F tier, though there might be some dropping back down to F tier after we tinker with the list more. Took you 8 months to hit 9 jump, and you've made a lot more gems in that 4 months since. I mean, yeah, reaching 9 jump. I haven't even got 9 jump yet just because I haven't focused on it. I should, but even 4 jump is just a crazy boost to gem farming. Very important to reach. One way or the other, they both belong at the top of S. With Artemis, all 3 of them deserve that rank, I believe. See, the problem is my OCD tells me to do this. Only because of how high their heads are. So it scales down. See what I'm saying? Because now we're just... You don't hate Val at the top, it's fitting. Yeah. Bad. What is just bad? Yeah, I mean, we've got the best buffer, we've got the best speed, and we've got the best DPS. Putting Val third. Oh. They all make sense in the S tier. What is an S tier support? If not a support, you can put into every single formation that's relevant. Yeah. We need a new tier list ranking the head size of each portrait. That would be interesting. Do we include hair and like armor in that, or just head size? Will. Except Will is so restrictive and annoying to work with. My god. But he does put out some amazing numbers. Oh, well, yeah. There's seat 5. Yeah, but 4 priest... Oh, I'm not denying its potential. Binwin's beard, if that counts. You know, Will can reach some crazy numbers with investment. Absolutely. But that does require a specific formation you've particularly designed, and as soon as you lose any of them, that viability kind of comes crumbling down. As far as raw numbers he can reach, though, absolutely amazing. Oh... What's everyone's plans today after this? I've been keeping busy. I think I'm gonna no-life WoW Ascension for a bit this evening. Hades 2? Oh, I forgot that came out. I might have to look at that one day soon. I like the first Hades quite a bit. You're doing the Blushi variant right now, you're terrified you're gonna screw it up? Well, if you do, you can always do it again. If nothing else. But you'll be good. You got this. As a peasant from Europe, it's always straight to bed after these streams. I hope the rare times I make fun of accents doesn't get to you. Take a bath at some point and eat, maybe go on a walk. Heading to a 5K. Staring at the ceiling until a new Stardew update hits Switch. Going to bed after this, almost midnight. That's pretty late where you're from. It's just about 3 o'clock where I'm at. And for those who did show up, I'm glad you did. Yeah, we'll pull up the tier list again so we can look at the tier list at the end. I'll still be here for just a little bit. Any questions you have, talk about anything, go on. We didn't get too sidetracked today. We got derailed a lot last time. Thank you for the follow, Devil's Umbra. Oh, there's a little sidetrack. Umbra, Latin. That is one of the funniest words to me, because in Latin, it's most commonly known as like a shadow or a shade or something dark. But it can also mean fish. I've always found that hilarious. You're going to log into Idle and tell Val she won. I think you have some disassociation issues there, Dark Warrior. She's not real, man. Wake up! She's real to him. Sometimes it's important to know when it's not actually real. Don't deny your love. See, this is that moment I'm talking about where it's important to differentiate reality from fantasy. Are you real? It can get confusing. I'm not real, no. No, I'm a figment of your imagination. You're staring at a blank screen right now. My voice is completely fake. It's all in your brain. On Saturday, you have a family function in the evening. Can we go about 10% faster? You know, just for your benefit. We'll see what happens. Seat 6 is an interesting seat, so probably not. But we'll see. We'll see. I do appreciate you always coming in lazy, though. See you on Saturday, lazy. You know, that is one tangent I've expected to go on at some point, and that kind of triggered my brain. Tyredack is a VTuber model. He's actually a petite Asian boy. I don't know where to go with that. I have thought about just doing a VTuber model with my voice, but just, you know, the massive cans. I think that'd be funny. Or you can jump to the next area of that function. It's actually the cat streaming all this time. Speaking of... Yeah, no, she wouldn't hit under the bed. She doesn't like it when I talk for this long, just to my mic and my computer. Say you're not a cat? Well, I can't say that. Oh, we'll see, Caius. There's definitely some that'll drop, no doubt, but that time will come on Saturday. Okay, so this I do have to ask, though. So, semi-sad side tangent here. We talked about me being a voice in your head, right? So keep that in mind. Do you have an inner dialogue, yes or no? I.e., do you hear your voice or another voice through your thoughts in your head? Yes or no? Sure shakens with the yes. All the time, Parada. You just think out loud? So that's the thing, Chibi. You think out loud, but if you don't, can you hear a voice in your head? It's crazy when you learn that some people don't. You also met someone who couldn't see. So, okay, I was going to go to that, Calcra, in a second. Yes, you have to talk to yourself to find someone interesting. What are thoughts? So here's the thing, though, right? So I also have an inner monologue, and that's how I think, is I have like 12 of my own voice talking at the same time, thinking of different things at the same time. That's how my thoughts are processed. I learned that that's the minority. All of us who hear a voice in our heads, we're in like the 30 to 40% of people. We're not the majority. It's actually more common to not hear an inner dialogue. Usually have discussions, your imaginary brother. There's one voice that just says Egbert. I think that's me. I'm just programmed in your brain. Egbert. People watching anime must be so confused. I was surprised when I found that out, right? But here's the thing, Calcra. I don't see anything in my mind. I don't see mentally at all. Zero. All blackness, always. I am the guy who can't see an apple. I can't conjure an apple. Only voices for me. So that's the other question. Who of you can see in your brain when you think and you... I'll just pull up the... I mean, I'm sure you've all seen it. It's been a conversation time and time again. Apple, conjure, thought. Images. It's just the meme. It's not even the base template. Hold on. Open image in new tab. Put image over here. Can you see? Okay, yeah, you can see it in this scene. You're confused. Okay, so that's the thing, Chibi. This is the list of how people generally can imagine things in their brain. Are you a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5? Put it in chat. I'm a 5. You dream? No, when I dream, I do see things, but when I just sit here and think, I can't conjure anything in my brain at all. It's all just blackness. I do dream. I do see things in my dreams, though. Man doesn't have the TV DLC in his head. You can make a fully colored, hyper-realistic apple in your head and even rotate it in all directions. A 4. Yeah, that's the thing. I'm a 5. I'm a straight up 5. Like, my brain associates, like, when I'm world building in D&D, I just kind of know what things look like. I'm like, okay, well, that'll be like Roman-esque. This will be like barbarian. Because like, I just have that association. My brain knows what those things are. But when I close my eyes and think about it, I don't see anything. I can't conjure anything at all. I just have association. Have you tried popping out your brain and blowing on it? I don't think my brain is a SNES cartridge. Not everyone is a 1. Like, say, close your eyes and imagine Warduke pulling out a flaming sword. There's just nothing. I know what that is because I have seen it and I have the association of knowing what I've seen in the past. But do I see it? Do I recollect it as an image? No. Maybe a 0. Is there a surrealism setting? Send Tyredack to Apple. Like, I was surprised by this because, like, I know multiple people who don't hear a voice, but they process through images and associate words the way I associate images. So they can't hear in their brain, but they know what a sound sounds like. Like, they have that association still. You're not wrong. I just have the most experience with an SNES. Well, actually, I started with the NES, but I was pretty young then. I can make Warduke do a Fortnite dance in your head. See, you saying that almost makes me glad I can't visualize. I don't want to see Warduke flossing. Please get that out of your head. NES cartridges were the worst. You can hear in your brain. You have been known to have inner dialogue with yourself, but you don't usually have inner dialogue. You normally just think. That's a 6 below the darkness. I really don't have inner dialogue. You have to work something out formally. That's the thing. Like, even right now, just all of the things I'm looking at, I have a different voice in my head talking to myself about all of the things I'm looking at to process that information. And countering that to my association. But as far as, like, if I close my eyes and visualize something, there's just nothing. I can think about, well, they might wear something that looks like this thing that I'm familiar with, but like as far as seeing something, no, nothing. Absolute nothingness. You can see sounds. You think your brain is... You can't imagine an apple, but you can totally see everything that happened in a D&D encounter. Can you taste an imaginary apple? That I haven't thought about. Can I associate taste? No, not really. Like, again, I know, oh, that thing is tart. Oh, that thing is sweet. But do I, like, can I... That's a nice, yummy thing. No, no. People with no inner monologue can count mentally, even when people are calling out other numbers, you think? A nice, crisp, invisible apple. I don't know if, like, my brain has attached to being too much. I don't know, yeah. But everybody's brains just develops differently, and they work their own things out how they do. Can you smell what the rock is cooking? I think everyone can. I think that's a given just throughout the human species. You're hungry now, you need a snack. Just visualize it. If you can taste it, imagine yourself swallowing it, digesting it, and then do an imaginary crap later. You wish you could imagine taste. Would do wonders for your waistline if the calories were imaginary. Yeah. You've only... See, but you can smell the rock through the TV. That you just can. You're lying if you say you can't. Just decided to give this whole chat some nice self-doubts about all sorts of things as a gift to the end of the stream. I don't think this encouraged self-doubt. It's just an interesting topic of conversation for how everyone has developed differently. You've been doing Spock's eyebrows since before The Rock did. Stomach does not obey your brain. The stomach is often more powerful than the brain, especially when you're on a diet. Imagining an apple taste just made you want an apple. Just imagine you're full then, though, and your stomach will be full, right? Now, I've always found that an interesting topic, though. How some people have an inner monologue, some people can't hear anything in their brain, but then some people can see clear as day through thought, and others can't. Just interesting to me. Smells like over-seasoned spaghetti. Your stomach has about as many neurons as a cat's brain. That I haven't heard. You've never been into wrestling, but did The Rock ever face paper or scissors? Now, he can demolish scissors, but paper was always his greatest foe. Oh, man. We could even do more brain tweaking stuff. This one freaks people out, though, sometimes. Do we want to do more brain tweak stuff or no? Because some of you might not like it. Yes. All right, let me see if I can find it. Hold on. What was it called? And some people this really hits hard, and some people are just like, no, I don't see that at all. It might have been this one. Okay, so for this, oops. I might need to hide my cam in chat for this briefly, but we'll do. He said that, then drank with a straight face. So let's go. Oh, your bud jumped with Andres. He's good. He's got some good buffing. Let's go here. I'm gonna hide my cam and my chat just for this. Okay. Let's hide chat. Let's hide video. All right. So what you're going to want to do is focus your attention entirely on the point. Okay. Stare at the red dot. Just stare at it. Let the people be in your periphery. Never focus on their faces. Stare at just the dot. And keep in mind, as you look at this, these are all just real, normal people. And just focus on the dot. It's not a jump scare. Just stare at the dot. Did you guys see wickedly distorted faces? Yes or no? In your periphery, you had to be focusing on the red dot. Yep. That's such a... Because now, we'll go back and re-watch that. Just look at the left and right this time, okay? Don't focus on the red dot and just look at them, and you'll see, focusing on the people themselves, they're people. They weren't those weird, shaped, Barbie, morphed dolls you thought they were. Now, they do specifically choose ones with very different... And even now, it can get a little tweaky on you, but... They specifically choose people with very different structures and you know, looks to contrast the other side, and then your brain putting them together just creates this abomination. I don't know what I don't know if oh yeah, they do it again. So we'll do go back to the second one and now look at the red dot again, just the red dot. It morphs them so much for me. I just saw a cyclops. So crazy. I love it. But yeah, I think that's interesting. I see what you're saying. Have y'all ever seen bluish yellow before? I don't think I know what you're talking about. No. You saw Bucktooth Carnival folk. Mad Magazine. I can kind of see that, yeah. Saw Hellraiser. There's a deep one. Man, I saw the first Hellraiser when I was too young to see a horror movie, and I only saw the scene. Anyone who's seen the movie will know what I talk about. There's a scene where the guy is just hooked up with chains, and it's like all his face and his body is all like strung up, hanging there and all ripping apart. And he looks at the main character, and he's in clear distress, but then he just licks his lips, looks at her, and goes, Jesus wept. And then he gets torn apart. Dude, when I was a kid, I was like, oh my god. Freaked me out as a kid. I'm waiting for you to tell us you didn't see anything but a red dot. What does that mean? I can see things with my eyes. Blue and yellow mixed together in your head to make green, but if you put one color in each eye instead of... Oh, okay, I do know what you're talking about, actually. You can't imagine in your brain. That's a brain-fooling exercise. There's a difference between processing sight and imagining something in the dark. You saw the futility of man and the end of all things. How do you define the futility of man in the images of just a few people's faces? So typical Thursday. A typical Thursday at 9 p.m., right? Not wrong, Parada. Well, I've just been processing everything we've been talking about at the end here, and yes, that was quite the side tangent. That being said, we have completed the tier list for seats 1 through 5. Here they are. Look at them. We'll be going over seat 6 this Saturday, 11:30 PST. And we might see some shuffling of these champions, and we'll be seeing where all of seat 6 is getting placed. But until then, that's all for now. I gotta bail. Thank you everyone who came. Saturday. Trying to think if anyone else has a chance of breaking into S tier. We'll see as time goes on. Yeah, thanks everyone, and I hope to see you Saturday. Everyone have a good rest of your day. Peace. Bye.